This week on the Frame Savers, games done so quick they're already over.
I'm glad we redid it. It's way better this time.
That one was good.
Do what you can, you know. This is episode 74 of the Frame Savers, and we are excited to bring you an SGDQ recap once again with Grand Pooh Bear. If you are new to the podcast, we are a retro video game podcast that focuses on speedrunning. Speedrunning is a hobby where we try to beat video games as quickly as we can using whatever tricks, glitches, or tomfoolery we have available to us. And right now we're live on twitch.tv/theframesavers. Shout out to the chat. Thanks to anybody who's joining. We have Pooh Bear here, the Grand Pooh Bear, for another GDQ recap. I don't know how we've kept you under contract this long.
I don't know. I mean, it's not a contract thing. I'm more like Boogie Cousins here. I'm coming for the league minimum, just to add to a super team. Already such a well-established podcast like yourself. I'm just trying to win some championships
I'm
here.
just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah.
Grand Pooh Bear just wants a ring. He's ring chasing. About 10% of our chat understood that sports analogy. It had nothing to do with video games, I promise you. But yeah, we're excited. We've done this with Pooh at least like the last 3 or 4 GDQs, I think.
We've had a few now.
Yeah, it's become a tradition, if you will, and I love traditions. They're quite fun. We're excited to go over all the things that we experienced and all the runs that you all saw or didn't see at GDQ. But before that, we've got some community events we can plug coming up. If you need that GDQ fix, you're going through withdrawals, you're throwing up at night, you're getting the spins, and you just say, I just need a fix. I need a fix. Well, we've got Shots Fired Annihilation, July 10th to the 15th. That's at twitch.tv/shotsfired marathon. What is that?
So that's a marathon that's hosted online, and it's specifically just for it was originally for first-person shooter games, but it's now kind of branched out into anything that sort of has the theme of being run and gun, that kind of style of game. So they've mixed it up a lot. Shots Fired Annihilation is just their newest iteration in their series. I think the last one they did was Shots Fired 5, so they have a pretty good track record. It's a pretty popular marathon, actually, and this is just the next one they're putting on. I think that there's a special theme for it. I think that's why they gave it a special name, but I don't remember exactly what the theme was.
The theme is Annihilation.
That's what it is. You have to kill everything.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the theme.
We've got Australian Speedrun Marathon, ASM 2018, coming up July 18th to the 22nd. If you want to hear some cool Aussie accents, you can check that out at twitch.tv/Aus Speedrun Marathon. And also ESA Summer 2018 coming up. That's kind of the European games done quick. That's July 20th to the 29th. You can find that at twitch.tv/ESA Marathon. Do you know what charity they're raising funds for? Or?
I don't remember what charity they're raising funds for, but one of the things I do really like about ESA, I'm not sure it works for every marathon, but it's kind of a nice twist that ESA has, is they run a side stream. So for all but like the first day of the marathon, they have 2 streams going at the same time, which gives you a lot of variety to choose from while the marathon's going on. I feel like they probably put some effort into trying not to line up 2 like big heavy hitter games at the same exact time on both streams, but it gives you a lot of opportunity to pick and choose what you like.
Absolutely. A great marathon. Definitely check those out. Those will help, continue going on with more speedrunning content, speedrun marathon content for good causes. So maybe somebody has tuned in this podcast somehow, probably from another planet, and they're like, what is SGDQ? Is that some sort of, branch of the IRS? What does it mean? So can you explain?
Yeah, so Summer Games Done Quick is the summer variant of the Awesome Games Done Quick marathon, all under the header of the Games Done Quick organization. It's a pretty big marathon. The summer one typically is in support of Doctors Without Borders, and the winter one is typically in support of Prevent Cancer Foundation. So we just got done with the one that we did for Doctors Without Borders, and I don't remember what the final total was. I remember that the total as of the finale was $2.01 million. But I don't think that takes into account all the final funds that come in at the end. So things like however much the Yeti raises and some of the merch stuff that they do. So
Yeah, just a great opportunity to help contribute for an awesome cause. We get to do this twice a year. Obviously, there's smaller marathons throughout the year, which are really cool as well, which we just shouted some out. But just awesome to see the speedrunning community come together and just work towards a good cause. 2.1 million, I think, was the last I had seen it, but we don't know the exact final number. But just a ton of money to help make the world a little bit of a better place.
I think this was the first SGDQ that broke 2 million, if I recall. So
I believe the record is like maybe 100,000 higher or so for
I think
previous AGDQ.
Yeah, I
but
think
not
Awesome
SGDQ.
Games did $2.2 million. I remember seeing Cool Maddie mention though that this was the marathon that reached $1 million the fastest. So of all GDQs, including AGDQs, we hit the $1 million mark at the earliest point in this marathon.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, there was a point where I thought it was going to go 2.5, honestly.
Yeah, it did. It always has this sort of slow start where it's like really big on day one, and then it's kind of a slow start that builds into like the last 2 or 3 days where like the real bulk of the money comes in. So it's always hard for me to predict what's going to happen. You know, you see like it's day 5 and we're at $1 million, and it's like, how can in 7 days we reach $2 million? But it always happens. It always gets up there at the end.
That last day brings in at least 500,000, if not more. It's usually like just escalates substantially, especially during the last couple of runs. So really cool to see it just drop a huge number and an SGDQ record again. So I'm really excited about that. What did you all do at the venue? Like, what did you all do at the GDQs?
Me?
Yeah.
There's only 2 of you.
I feel like I met a lot of people and talked to a lot of people and worked on panels and practice, and that was like it. I was busy. I felt like I was busy this one. I didn't really get to do anything like outside of what they offer at this GDQ, which is very different from usually my summer variants. Yeah, I was swamped busy. I felt like it took like an hour for me to get everywhere. But it was cool. It was awesome. It was probably the most fun I've ever had at one. With all that being said, like despite me feeling like it was like a work week, it was great.
Yeah, I recognize that this was probably the best organized GDQ in a lot of different ways. But I can't help but I feel exactly the same way. I feel like I spent so much time working that like my opinion of this GDQ is probably that it was one of my least fun ones, but I think that's just because I spent so much time like working and doing things,
preparing things, yeah.
Right. But this marathon was just so well organized. I think that the production quality just keeps like exponentially. It grows and grows and grows. It gets better and better. You know, we have things like the interview staff. They're really building out a whole team that's dedicated to putting on a really great show. The runs themselves, it's becoming a much more streamlined affair. The marathon venue itself, so the hotel that we were in, I think was a pretty good fit for us. I think that it still is not perfect. I think that you know, we're still trying to figure out exactly what fits our organization the best. We're not exactly the typical convention, but we're at the same time not really just like your casual video game meetup. There's like a lot of unique needs that our organization has. So
yeah, I definitely would like to see them expand like panels out more, to have them every day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them come out on YouTube and seeing if it's a big hit for them, because I think that's going to dictate how much they're willing to invest in them going forward.
For sure. For me, same kind of feeling. Just was really busy with a lot of stuff. I did 5 couches, for which I commentated on, and also our panel. We also did some side work, me and Chad on the podcast. So it was just kind of a really busy GDQ compared to a normal GDQ. I spent most of the time there with close friends, just getting food and hanging out in our room. And, you know, we'd have the stream on while we were playing board games or playing other games. So I didn't do as much crazy stuff. I didn't make any escape rooms. I didn't even make karaoke, which is a tradition, which was sad. But we did eat at the best Chinese restaurant ever.
That's true. That was...
Yo, how about the taco place right next to the venue, though?
Taco place was
that
good.
place was really good. I heard a lot of people were getting tired of it by the end, but I think that's just the nature of eating at the same place every single day. We
Absolutely.
Our group
I only had it twice, so
our group took Ubers over to a Vietnamese place that closed about an hour earlier than their stated time, so we walked next door to the Mandarin place, and let me tell you, we upgraded.
It was a great fun time had. We had the best waiter ever. One of our friends tried to order, what was it, chicken chow mein?
Yeah.
Chicken chow mein, and the waiter was not letting that happen. He was very animated. We have him on camera, pointing at the camera saying, "You do not order the chicken chow mein. You order anything but the chicken chow mein." And it was just a really fun event all around. Just good to see.
You got to respect a waiter. If a waiter says don't order that, you don't order that, man.
It wasn't just that he said not to order it. Like, he went back to it a lot of times. It was like he was ready for some stand-up, specifically based around the chicken chow mein of this restaurant.
He was workshopping his set with us.
Yeah, absolutely. He was very animated, and it was a lot of fun. But it's always great just getting to eat with people, do stuff. I didn't get to play as many games as I would have liked. I did like one rando race with Christos, and
I didn't get to do anything.
A couple people, but unfortunately, just didn't get to do.
I didn't even play an arcade game. I didn't get to
really
spend 1 second in the arcade. Yeah, I didn't play one board game. I didn't play one arcade game. No Games of Mafia. No, like this one was like I was go the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have liked more Secret Hitler. Chad broke my heart at the end of the last Secret Hitler match, and so that was the end. I would have been 5-0 if we had won that match. So, thanks a lot, Chad.
Sorry.
Do you want to speak to that event?
Oh, the Secret Hitler game we played?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was long and drawn out. In the very end, I shot the wrong person, and we ended up losing when we could have won.
And I didn't let him live it down because I'm
I've been hearing about it ever since. It's been like a week.
Yeah, a lot of fun just had all around. Great to see people. We all wish we could have done more and experienced everything more, but there's only so many hours in the day. We had a bunch of stuff to do. As you said, the panels were introduced. That was a really cool concept. We were really excited about that. They were a little understated. Like you said, it did feel kind of like a soft launch. Like they didn't put the schedule on the site, different things. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the feedback is, like Chad said, from the YouTube videos, and whether they decide, hey, this is something that's really well received, let's continue growing that, or if it's like, that wasn't, the best thing. But I think from the ones that I saw, they were all well attended and seemed to go pretty well, especially considering kind of the low key.
Yeah, they were really the few panels I got to see so far. I didn't get to attend, but parts of 2 of them, and I think that they were very well attended. I think that some of the personalities that they had involved with them were the perfect fit for launching the new idea for the panels. I definitely caught a big chunk of the giving effective commentary panel, and I mean, the lineup of people they had there giving that panel was just fantastic. They had Spike Vegeta and Jay Hobbs and Patty and Covert Muffins and someone else, I can't remember who, but it was a really, really great panel. They were all vibing off of each other, and it was really entertaining, and at the same time gave a lot of really great information. There was the ROM hacking panel, which I'm really looking forward to getting to see the whole thing on, the joys of ROM hacking. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're received on YouTube specifically. I think that's the big thing for me.
For sure. We really enjoyed our panel. If you're wondering how that went, you can go ahead and wait, and you'll hear the whole thing. Because it will be an episode coming up. We don't know when. We're still working on getting the audio and all of that. But also, Games Done Quick will probably be posting the panels, I would think, in the next week. So you'll be able to check that out as well. So we feel like it went well. It was a really fun Super Mario Brothers 3 episode. We don't want to spoil much else because we want you to go listen if you didn't get to attend in person. But that'll be hopefully released, I would think, in the next week or 2 on the YouTube and within the next month on the podcast. So that was cool.
For sure.
But we did make a big announcement on said panel, and we tweeted it, but we are going to be starting a new project, Mr. Chad.
Yeah, we mentioned it at the panel, and then I was reminded later that I didn't tell all the people on Twitter what the announcement was, so they were just left waiting.
Those 50 people were the only ones who were supposed to know.
But I just gave it up. I just gave all the information away.
Yeah,
no, we're starting TFS Record Review. So that's a new project that we're going to be doing. The idea is to be able to have a platform for talking about news in the speedrunning community, you know, introducing you to people that you otherwise may not see, games you may not have seen, and cover new world records. We'll probably be somewhat discerning in the world records that we talk about. There will be a submission process on a bi-weekly basis for you to let us know what happened. We may not talk about every single one of them, but we'll try to cover as many as possible, because it's not just about talking about the big name games. It's also about giving you an avenue for discovery, learning about new games that you may not be familiar with. And it won't just be me and John every single week. That's you get tired of us, and I can't blame you. It'll also be other people in the community who will be invited on to help us talk about the news, talk about new records, things like that. So we're really excited to do that. It's been in planning for months and months and months. So
yeah, we have some other stuff in the pipeline. We'll announce down the road once we're ready. But this was a really great idea by Chad. Some of us remember the what was it, the Sunday sequence break days, when the whole community came together, and it also gave a platform for a lot of different speedruns. You know, you didn't have to be a popular speedrunner or be running a game anybody had heard of. You just had to submit something that, you know, would end up in the show, and you would get a platform for that. And so it's just, we want that to be this to be a place where people can come together around just the podcast, speedrunning passion, etc. And so we're trying to build out some content on the Twitch site as well, just to kind of bring that community back together, I would say.
So but those of you who are listening to this, the audio version, just so you're aware, I don't think we have any expectation of releasing the record review on the audio feed. That will be just primarily the Twitch and the YouTube feeds. So it will be on Twitch, it will be on YouTube. I don't think that as content it will lend itself well to just a pure audio format. So I don't think that that's currently the plan.
We'll be reacting a lot to videos that you wouldn't be able to see, and that's a weird thing to listen to on a podcast. Right. So we're really excited about that. Hopefully you guys will all be enjoying that. Definitely give us your feedback. You know, obviously it'll probably start off rough, just like this podcast did. So be patient with us, but I think we'll all have a good time with that. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about some of the best runs you probably saw at SGDQ.
All right, so usually the way we break this down, we'll definitely start off by talking about a lot of the runs that you probably are already aware of. You've seen them, we've seen them, everybody's talking about them. We'd also like to cover in a little bit runs that you might have missed, things that might be worth going back and seeing, and then just a list of runs. You know, we're very busy at the events. We've only been back for a few days. It's hard when you're at the event to see everything, so we'll talk a little bit about runs that we haven't seen yet and that we're excited to see, so we won't have a lot of background information on them, but we'll jump in. So you guys have anything you want to start off with?
Well, I really enjoyed Super Mario Brothers just in general. We can go through all of those. There's a lot of cool stuff. The Super Mario Brothers 1 Warpless race was a lot of fun to watch just because there's so much talent on the stage anytime they put those together. They had Cosmic, Supersonic,
Royal Gamer,
Royal Gamer, and then previously GDF, now Retro Bob. It was a really tight race. Some people, you know, obviously probably weren't as excited about the performance or not, but just to see any of them be able to do it at such a high level, I mean, it was so good. And then the one-handed any percent run after was just a real fun treat from Cosmic.
I personally like when races don't go perfect because lead changes are fun, and that race had some lead changes. You know what I mean? That was really fun, and Royal Gamer, you could see Cosmic was just kind of like slowly gaining, and then finally took him over. But Royal Gamer then was right on his heels, just nipping at his butt towards the end, and ultimately, you know, I feel like Cosmic is one of the guys. I feel like him and TGH are kind of having a year right now. And I felt it was pretty fitting for him to win that race.
Yeah,
you know,
he was behind, but you knew, like, there's always the runner that can be a bit behind, and you kind of want them to be because you know they're going to be able to outperform, out execute, like, and slowly chip away at those leads. Like, they don't need the person ahead of them to make a mistake, and so it's always nice to have that person in the back because it's like fun to watch the chase, I guess. So it was a really cool race to see, and then obviously the any percent one-handed run for like a 6-minute something, and was a lot of fun to watch as well.
I've never
almost got the bullet bill glitch, and I was like so hyped.
I've never seen Cosmic do the grind for that, but I've definitely seen like his PB in that, and it's amazing to see that he's able to do that as consistently as he is, because I don't think I had any expectation that he was going to be able to pull that off live as smoothly as he did, but it was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, and they did a good job. I believe they had the camera on the one hand, like to show how it was going on, and I think that's really cool for just viewers to be able to kind of see that on the actual feed and get a sense of how difficult what he's doing really is. So, and then after that, you know, we had the Super Mario World Resi, what all small forts,
all castles, all forts, small only, which really which they affectionately nicknamed Avocado, since it's roughly the same acronym.
Oh, that's what Avocado was. Yeah. Okay, that helps. He did a really good job. He's an expert at the you know, the small Mario strats in Super Mario World, which are always really fun to see just because that game abuses the cape so much in most of the categories. And some of the level design is just clearly designed around your ability to fly. So to be able to get certain exits, particularly the one where he had to juggle 2 shells in a live environment, was just pretty awesome.
Yeah,
what about you guys?
He's such an amazing sport at that game as well. It was a really good fit for GDQ, because I feel like when it comes to big name games, a lot of times there's a lot of focus on, you know, let's explain the tech perfectly, let's explain all this stuff. Rezi's such a good sport, and he was playing a category that's already brutal and inconsistent, and so for him to sort of go into that and give a platform for us to just goof around about Super Mario World, I think it was great for a live audience. I mean, they don't want to hear us talk about oscillating run speeds and exactly how shell jumping works. They don't care about any of that, but to have us all just being able to be goofy about, you know, 8th try double shell jump in Chocolate Island 3, I mean, that was just fun. So
yeah, and I think it's also just fun to be able to see a category that you know isn't going to look perfect in a GDQ setting. Like, it's really easy to pick a category where you can implement enough safe strats to just make it look clean every time. But to watch somebody like attempt something like that double shell jump, like, you're not just going to be able to do that 100% of the time. I don't care who you are. And so it's fun for people to see just how difficult these speedruns can get pushed to, because a lot of them end up looking easy because a lot of safety strats are taken, or there's not a lot of punishing sections, and so that was really cool.
I mean, that run has 2 or 3 tricks that are harder than any trick in any Kaizo game. So it was Resi is a constant reminder that my time is limited here.
I told him he's got at least another 15 or 16 years before he'll be washed up like I am.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see his gumshoe years for sure. So what about you guys? Any games that stood out to you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Super Mario Brothers 3. I mean, let's talk a little bit about our good dudes, Pooh and
I felt like
Mitch.
there was a lot of cheating. There was a lot of poor sportsmanship. Pooh getting praise for the sportsmanship, by the way. I love that. You were a good sport, but you got a lot of praise for like.
I've got a lot of praise for not cheating. I feel like not like doing what any normal human being would like that's what me and Mitch would do if that happened in like IRL. If we were just having a race on stream, I would just I mean, honestly, I would have just reset.
You both would have reset, yeah.
But that was a really hard part because we were kind of sitting there. We didn't get any direction from like what to do with GDQ. Everyone was just kind of like stunned. Yeah. And I don't think anyone wanted to make a decision at all because I'm
everyone's
sure GDQ
looking at each other trying to figure it out.
Because when you do the reset without the permission, you're like, oh no, like, is GDQ going to be upset? Now we're taking an additional 20 minutes. Stuff like that.
So we, I guess I didn't really know what we should do. The other thing is I was having a pretty damn good run too. So it's not like I wanted to give up that. No, but I don't know. It was a weird, interesting moment, and it was. I'm a little bummed because we both actually played really well, and the wall jump. They actually spent like 10 minutes, TASBot doing like a whole segment about the wall jump, and then I got it first try. He gets it third try, and nobody will ever talk about that ever again. That is like such a
minor plot part of the whole SMB.
Yeah, it is just completely lost on everything. And props to GDQ. They actually asked me the last day if we would be interested in doing a warps race. And it ended up just not working out time-wise because some things but they totally heard the cry for rematch like during that GDQ, and so props for them for even like having that idea, and they wanted to do it. If everything would have worked out perfect, it would have happened.
Well,
but
I think there's a couple of good things that come from this. One, I think you've got a good shot of getting an SMB3 race with Mitch in next GDQ. I'm pretty sure.
Well, next GDQ, I won't be there. I will not be at the GDQ 2019. I am 100% not.
Yeah, you're going to be a little busy.
The next one you're there.
Yeah, I'll be a little busy for that one, but yeah.
And two, I mean, I think it made it much more memorable run. Obviously, you both were doing really well, and I think you both showed off all the tech and the tricks pretty well. Like that's what you really want to see, right? Mm-hmm. And you even got to see like the any % category. We got to see really cool. We got to see another player play a level. I mean, it made a lot of things much more interesting and entertaining. And I think
I'm surprised no one got mad at me for that one, honestly.
Yeah,
if nothing else,
this level.
If nothing else, you've probably convinced GDQ to invest a little bit of money in a table or something to set the console on. I mean, honestly, who could have predicted this outcome? What with Andy stomping Super Scudge's console, and then shortly after that, you stomping Mitch's console twice. I think it was only a matter of time before they finally decided that enough is enough. We could probably spend $5 on a table.
It was interesting. It was like a perfect storm of like events, and I think the funniest part is that my console was like 2 inches from my feet, works fine. And Mitch's console is about 6 feet from me, and I could have blown on it and it would have screwed up. So
yeah.
It was really hard for me to get back in the groove too. Like not just the groove of the game, but like the groove of commentary. It did take like I'm kind of glad we ended up doing that auto scroller because it kind of like let me refocus myself.
You kind of lose your tempo.
Yeah, I think that I totally was out of tempo because then waiting so long. But I think people don't really realize how exciting it is to just be up there. And I've been really lucky that I play Mario games. So I've also been up there with a big crowd because Mario games pull in big crowds. And it's really, really fun and exciting to see the crowd, and you're feeding off them. You can hear them cheering and clapping and gasping or like everything else. And it was just one of those moments where it was like a really, adrenaline got the best of me. You know what I mean? I was legitimately upset that I lost that power up. And
yeah. Well, one, you had a legitimately amazing wordsmith on the bench on your couch with no mic. I could have helped you out in that situation, but also
you're my hype man. I'm
just curious how much training it took with Allegiance for you to be able to disrupt another system and protect your own system. That's a really high-end strat.
You know what's funny is practice, or? Shout out to Truman, who right afterwards, he tweeted at Allegiance, "Hey, I would fit in really good with your team," and then it's like a clip of him turning off his console at I think Deuce-Lacon or whatever.
Yeah, Deuce-Lacon 3.
DeuceCon, at DeuceCon, and I was cracking up at that. I thought that was a really solid marketing opportunity for our boy Truman there. So
absolutely. Regardless, it was a great race. Honestly, you both did get to show off a lot of really awesome tricks and tech. You played high level, and also showing off like the non-douchey side of speedrunning, that people could see that, oh, people are actually like, I think people on Twitter are actually
we're
shocked that
legitimately
people
good
are friends.
Yeah, me and Mitch are legitimately good friends, and I care about his well-being and stream and everything else. I was more bummed that it, like, if it happened to me, it would have been whatever, but it happened to him, which changes everything to me.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Like, you're affecting someone else's submission. They're on the time they put in.
I think
but
the
Twitter
general
just getting to see that people are friends was a really nice thing to understand, because they seem shocked by it. Maybe they're all too deep into the esports. I don't know, but
I think the general response you got on Twitter, like people more or less siding with you, and you were like, how did I get more popular after messing that up? I think a lot of it had to do with sort of the humility you showed, because like you are the sort of person where on your stream and on GDQ you are like always on, right? You are like you are this paragon of energy and positivity, and when that happened, like you just immediately like face in your hands, and it didn't feel like embarrassment. Like no one felt embarrassed for you. It was just like, he is really hurt for having done this. Like he really just,
that's exactly what happened.
It was clear you weren't acting. Yeah, it was clear that was a real thing, and I was there right behind you, and I heard all the little things you whispered to us, because I know you felt terrible, and we appreciate you letting us poke fun at it. I think it was a lot of fun. I think it made for a much more memorable SMB3 race for most of us, and I think we're gonna hopefully see a rematch at some point. So
that'd be nice.
What other runs out there, moving on from maybe Mario, that we can go back to later, did you all enjoy?
Celeste was everything to me. I mentioned earlier, like, TGH is having a year, and I really too believe that. He's like, he's having one of the best 6 months I've ever seen in speedrunning. Outside of what he did in both the Rando tournament and the No Major Glitches tournament, Link to the Past, but what he's been doing to Celeste, which is a highly competitive game. I think it's the most played speed game right now on speedrun.com. It's Yoshi Pro is so amazing and incredibly good at this game, and TGH just kind of blew everything out of the water during that race. And it wasn't just deaths, less deaths. It was 100%. He was just so clean and crisp, and he just looked so unbeatable during that race. It was a joy to watch. It was amazing, and I think a game that a lot of people have played casually that looks so drastically different in the speed run, the way your movement works. It was, I don't know, such an awesome run, and to have Matt Thorson on the couch. Like, you had devs who made the game design levels on the couch. Like, that was super great.
Yeah, he brings such a level of polish to everything he does. He's I mean, he's one of those players that, if he picks up a game, he's going to give it his everything. I mean, that's not to say that other people out there don't. Everyone out there is doing everything they can to have the most fun they can. But for TGH, having fun is like being the best at something. And he pushes himself to that point. I mean, he did it. He was the fastest person to 125 in A Link to the Past. He did it in like 6 months. He managed to hold on to Link's Awakening DX world records amidst running other games at the time. He'd come back and defend it anytime someone would show up. Undertale, I mean, he was a force to be reckoned with there. And then now with Celeste, I mean, Yoshi Pro is no slouch, but I mean, he is pulling that carrot pretty far away from Yoshi Pro constantly. So
yeah,
it was.
I'm very glad I don't go against TGH in any games currently.
Yeah, I had the joy of racing against him in the No Major Glitches tournament, so that was a lot of fun. Real close race. Everybody was on the edge of their seats, and we all had a great time. But it was awesome to meet him. He's just an awesome guy, and he's been, just like you said, a force going on in the community lately. There was also the TASBot Celeste, which was kind of cool as well. Do you want to talk to that?
So I didn't end up seeing the TASBot Celeste run. I caught like a chunk of it. It was really good. It's amazing to see what the task can do with Celeste. I've definitely seen some of the tasks along the way, but I didn't get to catch the whole thing. I'm looking forward to watching it, because I know I watched sort of the work in progress for the tasks over the past few months. Every time they get posted to like Reddit or something like that. But it's amazing to see that game tasked, because runners already sort of super extend the physics engine in that game, and to see the task just take that to the next level, you know, taking one jump across 2 screens is just, it's amazing to see.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll kick off. This is the only one I really saw all of, or most of, that's left on the list. But the OOT bingo with Runner Guy, I am not a big OOT guy. I don't know much about the game, and I'm not really a big fan of bingo. And so this wasn't something I was excited to watch or anything. But I thought it was interesting that they put it in, because it is a big way that people approach retro video games, and it was kind of nice to see them put, you know, showing new things from the speedrun community. They've added on randomizer, they've added on, you know, showing this bingo. They've done a couple of other things like Mario Maker that aren't quite quote unquote pure speedrunning. And so I think that's kind of a really cool thing to introduce, because they did a good job of breaking it down and explaining, you know, what the point of bingo was, what the card is that they got, and why they chose the path they did, and kind of guiding through that. And I think that was really cool. They could have used bigger fonts so I could have read what was on the card, but I got the gist of it, and I think that's just interesting whenever they add something new to GDQ to kind of highlight other members of the speedrunning community.
I mean, bingo's come a long way in the speedrunning community. Back from when I think Peaches was one of the first people to develop bingo cards for Ocarina of Time, and over time they've gotten more and more sophisticated. Community has sort of jumped up around them. They sort of represent the same piece of the SRL landscape, the Speedruns Live landscape, that the old Zelda 3 puzzle races used to, things like that. And then on top of that, I think the only strange choice in my mind for the bingo race was to not do, or the bingo run was to not do it as a race. Because I understand why they do that. GDQ will often choose to not have something be a race when they feel like it needs a special level of commentary that a race will detract from. I totally get that. But I think that bingo doesn't really make a lot of sense not being in a race, because the whole idea is the variety of routing, the way that you can solve the same problem with different approaches. And I think only seeing one person's approach to that really limits the point of bingo in a lot of ways. That being said, I think it's really great that bingo finally got a chance to be showcased, whatever the format was.
Yeah, they'd have to have approached it similar to how they did Rando, I would assume, in order to keep from overlapping, you know, strategies and stuff. It'd be hard for the runners to articulate what they were trying to do without wanting to have the other runner hear what they were trying to do. But I agree, it would be more interesting to see kind of, you know, if you watched a solo Rando run, it's kind of hard to feel as engaged as to what's going on. Whereas if you have somebody you can compare what they're doing against, then you can kind of get a better picture of kind of the whole process.
I think you could have even cheated a little bit and just planned a bingo card in advance. I feel like a lot of people would say, well, that sort of detracts from bingo, the point of bingo. But I think if you let them look at the bingo card in advance and come up with 2, you know, row column diagonals on the bingo card that are both perfectly viable, and then have both runners do different columns, so that there's none of this, well, I don't want them to hear what I'm going to do because everyone's planned it in advance. I think that might have been a solution. I think there's a lot of ways you could solve the problem, but ultimately, you know, however...
So instead of a plando, like a plingo.
A plingo?
Yeah, because they call them plandos, the seeds that you plan out. Yeah. The real question is, was bingo really his name-o?
Yes.
So the Cuphead run was super awesome. TMR is a god. I don't really know what else to say about it. Yeah, it was really fun. I think you know, they talked about the lore just enough. They sang songs. The developers were really active on Twitter, excited about it, tweeting about it, which I always really dig that when you see devs like stoked about their games at GDQs. That always makes me really happy.
That's like the most wholesome thing in the world. Whenever you see them posting about it, they're just so excited that their game's going to get featured, and it's like, I appreciate you.
I love that. Yeah, they made artwork. They made like TMR and Cuphead style, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way like TMR, like he has this like the way he like rolls his R's anytime he says them, and just the way he articulates everything, it's just, you can't help but be like, I want to be friends with this guy. And and you add in that incredible skill on top of it, and
I will say I love TMR a good bit. I got the pleasure of getting to hang out with him a bit at previous GDQs. I saw him once eat over 3 large bowls at Genghis Grill, which I still think is his most like ridiculous accomplishment outside of beating all the NES games. Like that is a lot of food, and I was impressed if you've ever been to Genghis.
So I didn't get.
I think this game probably brought in a lot of casual players who, because I think a lot of casual players think
it's a hard game.
It's the new really hard game. Like they got it, and it's the new Mega Man or the new, they couldn't beat it. So to watch somebody be able to beat it that high of a level probably brought a lot more people into the community and into just watching the stream than some of the other runs that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I think that so I didn't catch but the very end of the run, but I think it was really nice to see the whole community rallying around TMR at the very end. I mean, it was a full audience. People were showing up midday for Cuphead, and then people were just cheering him on during the run, excited for him, and at the very end of the run, like he got a standing ovation and people were cheering his name. It was really nice because TMR is just a really great pillar of the speedrunning community, and it's great to see so many people coming out for him to show support. So
absolutely. Another pillar of the community, Super Mario 64. How was that race? I missed it.
Hot.
I didn't see the race.
Cheese,
so how did it go?
Just Cheese is so good. The problem is Cheese, like I feel like the gap is just,
it's like a Zelna situation in NMG.
Yeah, the gap,
he's gonna win every race.
Yeah, Cheese is he's just so damn good at that game, man. And no one, I don't know what it is. It's not like, it's not like Mario 64 is not a competitive game. Obviously it is, but Cheese is just, he's really starting to, the gap's getting wider. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, he's continuing to advance. And and you have seen that, like Zelnus and like Stivity, obviously in Banjo, like, no one can come close to him. It's always interesting to me, especially the games that are super highly played. And you see it, I think, a lot more in the 3D games than the 2D games, where somebody just knows how to save time in weird ways that nobody else can figure out, Yeah,
I think it's even crazier in 2D with like Zelda and Link to the Past. So it's kind of, but like you said, so many people run SM64. It's shocking that somebody could pull away like that.
I think that's the thing, though, is that for 3D games, there tends to be a lot of variation and movement and ways to optimize. People who are at that very highest level of execution are the people who know how to optimize just that little bit. With 2D games, it's very often just going from point to point, and so optimization is just a matter of, did you slow down, for instance, or something like that. And I think that it's a good example of how A Link to the Past shines as a speedrun, that, Zelda, that's a game that's also a game of, you lose frames, you lose just seconds here and there. And that game is optimized in the same way, and Zelda has that same skill there. But I mean, for 3D games, it's the same way. There's probably 100 runners out there that know how to do every single trick just as well as Cheese knows how to do it. But Cheese brings just an extra level of polish and optimization to the run that no one else can touch.
Absolutely.
And he looks so damn good doing it. Like, I don't know how he's getting better looking every single year, but he legitimately is.
It's the MeUndies.
Dude. Oh,
if you're confident wearing MeUndies, then the rest of you shines through. Hit us up, MeUndies. We need your sponsorship money. Thanks.
Yeah. Shout out to Cheese. Sup, boy.
So while off laughs, also we had an awesome Super Mario Maker race, which you were involved in. That was a lot of fun to watch. Really cool creative levels. I thought the level choice was really just spot on. I really enjoyed the variety. How did you feel about it? Why don't you just talk about it, since you know all about Mario Maker?
I think it's the best one we've done so far. I think we've shown Mario Maker at a lot of different events now, actually, and I personally think this is probably the best one. This is the first one we've actually gone under limit on, which is really exciting for us. We don't do that often. Usually you accept Mario Maker and you say, all right, we estimate an hour, but really we need an hour and a half. So that was pretty exciting. I got to give a shout out to, we probably had, like, and this is not a joke, but to do the Mario Maker race between the racers, the commentators, the level creators, the level testers, and then the people that are helping us upload the levels there, so none of us actually see them. There's probably about 40 people that help work on this one event. And a lot of man hours go into that. Obviously you can see the levels were really, really polished this time around. And outside of we timed out on 2. One of them was maybe a little too hard. The other one we just sucked on, like straight up, because I played it today and I one-shot it. It was just like we were just bad that day. It was just like, like nerves there for whatever reason. It just wasn't working. And that's to be expected. I kind of like that we actually did time out on one. I think that's okay. I don't think that's a bad thing. We had an exciting finish. I think the only thing I'd change with the format is that when we hit the 6-minute time, it's like that's your last Mario, if that makes sense. You know, like instead of doing the like, oh, it's done right there. I think we should do like last Mario. But I really enjoy the, you know, you have to finish the level to get the point. I don't like the farthest team thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I like that you have to finish the level to get.
It's like who missed the field goal by less. Like like you either make the field goal or you don't.
Yeah, and I think the head start actually, like if it was any longer, we might have lost that race. You know, so
yeah.
I think the head start format works. Maybe we should have done like 10 seconds instead of 5-second head starts. But
I think,
are you implying that our Tarchan couch didn't put at least 40 people in the background to get that whole thing running the way it was? Because I feel like you're acting like your runs got a little bit more work than ours did.
I think
there's a lot of work that goes into that.
There were some people who were slightly critical of the format. I think that, you know, some people thought that, you know,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think anytime you sort of mix it up, you're experimenting with new ideas. And I think it's good that the Mario Maker crew has been sort of experimenting with how to make Mario Maker fit within the format. And, you know, you're gonna have a few pieces here and there, you know, not thinking about doing, you know, last Mario at the 6-minute mark, or not, you know, maybe 6 minutes isn't the right number, but I think the dedication that the Mario Maker crew has to making the game be a good fit for GDQ, be watchable, entertaining, have a good tempo to it, so that, you know, you don't have these long lulls of uninteresting stages or something like that. I think it's been really great. So
yeah, I mean, and there was a variety of stages. We did add kind of like a puzzle stage this time, which I personally thought sucked, but it ended up having the best moment. Jakku finishing right at 6:05. They gave us that one. Thanks, GDQ.
They definitely gave you that one.
Yeah, thanks, GDQ. But yeah, it is very hard, and I think that's the thing. It is an interesting game in that I don't know if we'll ever have like the perfect format. I think the two things we really want to focus on is the fact that we want every level to matter, because it's really rude of us to ask 9 people to make a level, but 4 of them could possibly not matter, and B, get in under the time limit. Those are the two things we really wanted to accomplish. So I really personally liked the kind of grand last level. I think the only real disappointment for us was that we did have a one-shot on the last level, but at the same time, that was such like an awesome clutch moment. And that was like such like the perfect like Carl Sagan level that I don't know, it was cool, you know what I mean? And I'm definitely a big fan of team events. I have been on a couple 3 team events now at GDQs, and I can tell you right now, I am more into those and more excited for those as a player than I have been during my solo runs.
For sure.
Yeah, if you're newer to the Mario Maker, I guess, interaction with GDQ, like I think the first one you all just raced 10 levels straight in a row, so like one of you might be 2 levels ahead of
that didn't work at all,
and that was just like, how do you commentate this new level if the other people are finishing the old level? Like it was chaos. So just to see how far it's gone to this point, I think the penalty for winning more games should have been better,
a little bit
them.
Larger, yeah.
But outside of that, like you're right, like every level does need to matter, especially with all the people putting their time in. Like you said, a lot of unrecognized names go into things like that. I also 100%. Really did enjoy the section after the race where you all kind of just highlighted a level that you learned and got to show off a little bit more tech and stuff. I know there was one level, blindfolded level, that was very interesting. But other than that,
I mean, I want to go ahead. I mean, you never break kayfabe, but it was really funny because we talked to GDQ about this. Like, we have these 4 hard levels, and that was the idea. We have 4 hard levels, and then we were like, we have this 5th one. It's an auto level, and we're going to do it blindfolded at the end. And we warned GDQ about it. I don't know if you noticed, but they really hyped it up on Twitter too. They totally, the blindfold's coming out. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
So they were all in on the joke, and I think that I mean, not to like shift gears, but I think just GDQ was very in on the jokes this year. There was, I don't know if it was a conscious effort or everyone's just in that mode of like, this is fun now. This is fun again mode, you know?
Right.
Because that was just one of many jokes. I felt like I heard Sumi scream out, "GDQ never has any fun." I was going to say,
Bulligan was very clear when he pulled out that red card.
The red card.
There is no fun. So I don't.
Yeah, we probably should have had him pull out the yellow card.
And then she got badge checked in the finale.
Yeah,
I did not realize the whole thing. Like, I realized large parts of it were auto, and I was like, They're making this seem really impressive, but a lot of this seems auto. But I thought there were parts that weren't, and then I asked the runner, and he's like, "No, it's all auto." I'm like, "Well played, well played." So I'm sure we're blowing everyone's minds right now. I'm sorry about that.
I kind of like it's kind of like the best worst case scenario for Cliffy because he got a standing ovation afterwards,
and he didn't have to do anything.
And yeah,
that's the American dream right there. That's what we built this whole country off of.
That was like the most privileged speedruns right there.
Yeah. Exactly. We need to set those up every year, man. I need to find a game that's just an auto game.
I would say if Mario Maker can get in, I think this is going to start a small tradition of maybe us trolling the audience a bit.
Nice. I hope so.
In a way.
That would be great.
Yes.
So just to wrap up this section, we got a couple more games here. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the Metroid? We have 2 Metroid games. We have this Metroid Samus Returns. That was the new 3DS reimagining of Metroid 2. First time it's ever been in GDQ, so that was cool. And then, of course, we had our obligatory Super Metroid, but this time with 100% map completion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Super Metroid 100% map completion, for those of you who don't know, it's not required for you to get all the items. The only point is that you have to just uncover all the tiles of the map. And I really tried to talk Oats and Goats into not telling people what that really meant, because it was a lot of like entering a room just to trigger the map tile and then leaving it immediately. And so I really wanted him to be like, oh, nope, sorry, this is the wrong room, and just do that over and over for the entire run. But he felt like that wouldn't translate properly. So
weird. It's weird how their games become so popular, and then the games we're ambassadors of are considered mockeries. Who would have thought?
I can't handle that. It was a really fascinating run, and I think more than just the category, because the category is what it is. I think 100% map completion is neat because it showcases parts of the game that you would otherwise never see. Obviously, you get things like the map rooms, which are worthless and who cares, but then you get to sort of fully explore some rooms that you just wouldn't get to see. But I think what really made that run shine was the couch. Like, the commentary was just so great. The run wasn't super serious. It was, it was Oats really vibing properly with, some comedy, some just enjoying themselves, and I think the couch really shined for it.
Yeah.
Which is always good. I mean, Super Metroid's had some rough moments in the past in that regard, so to have like positive feedback.
And that was a lot of the focus, I would say, of us on the couch was Oats specifically, his history in Super Metroid at GDQ. So I know he was happy to what do I want to say? Probably get in a safer category in there, and
something more playful too, just like to make Super Metroid a little bit less of like, here's the serious thing.
I think Super Metroid needed that in general, just at a GDQ to have. I mean, when's the last time we had a Super Metroid run that was just fun, just like straight up fun on the couch? It's always such a serious run because they're in danger of dying, they're in danger of losing the whole run. And it's the second to last run that has $9 billion attached to it. You know what I mean? To save the kill the animals. So I think this was a great run. I was super happy to be a part of it. Like, shout out to Oats for letting me be on your couch despite me knowing like nothing about the game really. So
I think that works for a lot of games. So I think
it does.
I think we're seeing that more.
I know
in
enough
commentary.
about it, game, but yeah.
But I mean, we're seeing that more with commentary. Like, that works really well to have someone who's not necessarily there just to be the voice of the game, but someone who's there to provide entertaining commentary. With Oglib's Tarchan run, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Horstad was on the couch. Horstad specifically was asked to never look up anything about the game before the run, so that he could come in and just sort of respond organically to what he was seeing. And I think that we're seeing more people make their commentary less about picking the people who, know everything there is to know about the game and can tell you every single number that's associated with every single trick, and more about like trying to pick people who are going to present the game in a nice light.
I have no problem with that. I have absolutely zero problem with that. And I know it might suck for like the rest of the community to a certain degree, but I think you're doing yourself and your community a better, what do I want to say, a bigger favor if you just put on a nice, great run. That's fun and entertaining. That's why you see Spike on like 90 couches now, because a lot of people are realizing this and they know like, oh, well, who can I get? Go to Spike. I mean, that was my thing with Mario Maker. I pushed for Spike personally. Like, I was like, I don't care if he knows anything about the game. He'll be able to, you don't need to know anything. It's Mario. You jump, you run, you jump. Like, who cares? He'll make it fun.
I think
Exactly.
we've seen that for a long time on most couches, but not on the big name couches. Like not on the big games like Super Metroid, Mario 64. I mean, most of the Kuso stuff, the smaller stuff, like I've been on so many couches of games that I didn't run or know until I sat down with the runner and went over stuff. Anything with a small community like that. I know Off does tons of couches too, but I think
John
it
and I have
does
actually
add.
talked though about how to do commentary like that. We've talked
Yeah.
before about being the person who knows nothing on the couch, like for games that I might even know really well, but rather than just sit there and just ramble off a list of facts, being that person on the couch that says, "Can you explain how this works? I don't understand that."
Yeah.
Even if you know it, you're the voice of the chat who has no idea what's going on and wants to hear those questions answered. John, I mean, I stole that idea from John. He talked long ago about doing that on couches, and I was like, that's actually really smart. And it's
I mean, go watch our Mario marathon or Mario relay commentary with me, you, and Sky. And I have literally never. I had done 2 days of running SMW, and that's it for any of those games. And that's the role I
there's,
played.
like, nothing
and
you
it's not
don't
like I
know.
didn't.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not like I didn't, but that's the role I played. That's
Right.
exactly what I did there. And you can do quality commentary while not knowing all of those things or knowing them and just trying to be a voice for the crowd, like Off says. But it's been interesting to see some different strategies approaching with couching. We didn't talk about Super Samus Returns or Metroid Samus Returns, but speaking of couching, I guess the other end of the spectrum, I think the hot topic was the Super Mario Odyssey run. Didn't exactly get the most well-received couching. And it'd feel kind of weird for us to just kind of avoid it, I guess, talking about it.
Yeah, so this was the highlight of it that most people are talking about is the couch had Trihex on it, as well as some other prominent runners in the community, such as
Bayleaf.
Yeah, and they rehearsed their commentary in advance, which is really a great thing to do. It's good to sort of figure out who's going to talk about what and what you want to talk about during the run. But they sort of scripted it to a much larger extent than in the past that we've ever seen before. And in addition to that, Trihex actually tweeted out in advance to the run the script for the commentary, which I guess we can present that as Exhibit 1 for maybe the first mistake in the long line of events that occurred. But I think sort of showing people, here's what we wrote down, even the like really small scale jokes, I think takes a lot of that away. I think it kind of shows a lack of organic commentary. And before we really talk about it a whole lot, I do want to say that one of the really unfortunate things is that they had Trihex and Spike Vegeta both on the couch, two of probably the most well-spoken people in our community. Trihex himself is a really great speaker about speedrunning. He's a great advocate for speedrunning in the community, and it was just sort of a shame to see it fall flat in this way, because they set themselves up for success to such an extent.
Yeah, I will say it's not something that I felt was as bad as a lot of people did. But once I read the script, it made it way worse, and that's the problem. Like you said, like if you're ever sitting down and watching a movie and someone says this next part is hilarious, like you're like, well, thanks. Now I've got these expectations that it's hilarious, and now I'm like ready for the joke. You need that organic aspect of just seeing what jokes naturally occur from the run, seeing what commentary naturally occurs from the run. On top of that, was this the first time Odyssey was in GDQ?
Yeah, it wasn't featured at the previous one, so it was 8 months worth of things to discuss.
And it's just like such a technical run. There's so much amazing like actual physics and tech going into that specific run that it just felt like that was glossed over for a lot of the script. And I think that kind of bothered people as well. I think the idea is interesting though. I think I like the idea of trying something new for commentary. Like you hear a lot of the same things. It's kind of like sports commentary. You hear a lot of the same cliches, a lot of the same turns of phrase, and it gets kind of old or repetitive. And so trying something new where you're like, hey, let's script the whole thing and make this a production or a skit or something. I think it's a cool idea. I just think it fell flat. I don't think it was executed that well, as much as, like you said, I think Trihex is super talented. All those guys are. It's just unfortunate. I think they took a risk. I think it's a cool idea. I don't think they should be like, maligned for it or anything, but it just ultimately felt like it took attention away from a really cool speedrun and a really great speedrunner. And that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think the couch's number one thing a couch is supposed to do is support the runner and support their run and make them look good. You know what I mean? One way or another, however it is you do that. And this couch didn't accomplish that. It's kind of, this sounds bad, but there was this moment where they were practicing. We were in the practice room together. We were doing Marty Maker stuff, last minute Marty Maker stuff, and they were practicing. And I almost wanted to like touch Necro on the shoulder and just be like, don't do it this way. And I didn't, because, you know, it's not my thing. It's not my stuff. I really hope it was his idea. That's a big fear of mine, is that it might have been not his idea to do it that way. And when you have a lot of big personalities, it's hard to, I know people probably say yes to me more often than they really want to, because they think like, you know what I mean? You have a presence or a big personality. And I don't ever want that to be the case. But I understand how hard that is to say no to other people. I have that issue too. So I really hope that was the case, at which point it's a lot better, I think. But I do fear that it didn't feel like that when you're watching it.
Yeah, from the stories I heard, everything I heard says that Necro was in on it. That a lot of the jokes that were written were his ideas for the jokes, and that you know, he was in on it when it was the writing phase, and when they were practicing it, he was on board with it. But I think that's a lot of people's main takeaway. Like, it, as someone who does commentary and sucks at it sometimes, I'm prepared to see commentary that's maybe not as shining, glimmering as it could be. But I think at the end of the day, what it really ended up feeling like was this was Necro's time to shine, and I don't think he did as much as he could have. I think
and the game's time to shine too. I mean, it's a great speed game. A lot of people put time into it. It has a lot of really cool tech. Honestly, I think it took speed gaming. I mean, it has the most speed runs, I think, now of any game that's been speed run, right?
I think it's second to SM64 again now that they.
So now it.
But it's still, it's like second.
But still, I mean, and it's been out a year, so it's like the impact on the community. It's the most impactful game that's come out in the last year by not even any question. It would have been nice to be highlighted more. And honestly, like, we don't normally commentate on stuff like this or commentary in general. We don't like to be critical at all. I've seen way worse commentary, and I've seen, you know, commentators definitely take way less attention away from like way more attention away from the runner. But I think the situation was just more like a disappointing missed opportunity, because it's such a great game. Trihex, like we said, is so well spoken. People love him. You know, that whole couch was great, and it's disappointing when that falls short that way. You know. Yeah,
and I think that's the other thing. You do look at like Spike sitting there, and you're thinking like, man, what if these three guys and Small Ant and Bailey, what if they were just, you know, vibing?
That'd be great.
You know, like, and I think I just think it was something that wasn't necessary, because it probably would have kicked ass if they would have all just met up 2 minutes beforehand, walked up there and done the damn thing.
So my last comment on this, the last thing I want to say about this is that unfortunately, scripting to that extent, because it removes a lot of the organic feel of it, requires a really good actor to deliver them and execute on it. And unfortunately, the one person on that stage that had the acting chops to really deliver that script was the one person who wasn't mic'd. So
I mean, it's something that just needs to be taken into consideration. If you ever get asked to do commentary, it's something me and Chad do every time we sit down with the people that we're commentating for. We say, how much attention do you want me to put on you? How much attention do you want me to take off you? Because some runners say, hey, I want you to just do this whole social, make this fun, whatever. I want to do my speed game, and I get one shot to do it. I want to do great, so please do all the talking for me. And other people say, like, I want to mostly run it, but just chip in with some jokes or some silly stuff. And like getting that expectation is really important.
Yeah, I have the same series of questions I ask for everyone. Like my first question is always, are we doing this one straight, or is it jokes? Like, do you want me to go into tech, or are we just goofing off? Because I want to make sure that the runner is getting exactly the opportunity that they want to have. So
yeah, I mean, that is really important for anyone doing their first run or going to do their first commentary in future, not just GDQs, but any event. You know what I mean? It is very, know what type of run you guys are putting on. You know what I mean? Make sure everyone is on the same page on that, and what type of run you want to show and what type of run you want to put on. And personally, I say always lean towards fun.
Right.
Absolutely.
Myself. And I understand why you would want the tech explanation run too. I get that, but
I've always said there's like 10 runs in the world that exist in such a way that you want to do them completely straight and serious and make them, you know, like,
I think races
like the
lend
serious runs
themselves
and the
to more-
races and such, but most speed games, like especially solo, like you're just doing an attempt and you might as well have fun with it and make it fun for people.
Especially if your game's been seen before. Like if your game's like a staple, you don't. And I think that's why like this Super Metroid worked, because every Super Metroid they explain the tech. Like everyone knows what mothballing is. You know what I mean? Even I knew what that was, and I had never. You know, I haven't played the game since I was 14. And so it's like, I think that's something that it does work if your game's been seen multiple times. That was something we really didn't care about, except in our Mario 3 run. We weren't going to explain anything except really the tricks that you don't see in other categories. You know, that was, yeah.
Absolutely. That's the fun thing, is highlighting the difference between this new category you're introducing. We've got, do we want to take a quick break, or do we want to wrap up these last three real quick?
So the ones that we didn't talk about, Metroid Samus Returns, I think Shasta did a really great job with that. It was a killer run. He's really entertaining. He's friendly. He's like this most wholesome, positive guy I know. And the one thing that stuck out to me, probably stuck out to most people, is he was struggling with this one trick, and it was so heart-wrenching.
Like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
it was.
It felt like 10 minutes. I'll tell you, to be honest, it was much shorter than that. But I'll tell you, I was there too, and it felt like 10 minutes.
How long was it? How long?
It was like 4 minutes, but
that's it.
Yeah, but it felt like it was a lifetime long, and he sounded in earnest, like he thought that the trick had been patched. He was like, "Has it been patched? Because I'm sitting here and I can't get it." And it was heart-wrenching at first, but he's such a good sport, and the crowd was like rallying behind him. They were like cheering him on and chanting during it.
That way.
The GDQ chat during it was like, "You can do it, you can do it."
Yeah.
Like
that's like the end of Rocky 4. He turned
it was
around
better.
the Russians.
It was better that way, man. It honestly was.
Turned around the Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were cheering for Rocky in Moscow. And they were cheering for Shasta in Twitch chat. That's amazing.
It was a really wholesome run. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. It had this the trick had this natural rhythm to it, that it just became this sort of thing that was like easy to chant and clap along with, and everyone was just like, "You can do it," and cheering them. It was a really wholesome sort of.
I need to go back and see that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The only other ones that we didn't talk about were Wind Waker HD, which I didn't actually get to see myself, but I know that there were some struggles with that run. I'm glad that this run is really starting to get its own highlight. You know, it always sort of played second fiddle to the original Wind Waker, but now that it's got all sorts of really cool tricks of its own, including the big barrier skip that makes it so much more featureable at a GDQ, Wind Waker HD is really coming into an era of its own.
I wandered across a highway with Chad here while that was on the most dramatic trip to Chili's I've ever been on. Yeah, no kidding. And then I got yelled at very harshly for not knowing what barrier skip was. I felt very uncomfortable.
Shame.
I was surrounded by 9 people just staring at me like I just said I don't know where the sky is. So, but it is what it is.
Anyway, let's make it a quick break and we'll be back and talk about some runs maybe you didn't see.
So that was most of the runs you probably caught while you were watching SGDQ. If not, you should go back and see them. But we wanted to go over some, I guess, hidden gems is the hot take word, but you know, just some games you might have missed that we really enjoyed. Yeah, we've got the hot take expert in here. I'm gonna go ahead and kick this off real quick. There were a lot of beat 'em ups in this GDQ, like a lot, and generally you would say, oh, beat 'em ups aren't really like the best speed runs. We like platformers or RPGs or whatever. And it's always been like a risk to submit a beat 'em up, I feel like, in the past. But there was a whole ton of them. Double Dragon 1 and 2 were in. The 2 that I really liked, Batman Returns. There were a couple others. I mean, there were a lot.
Streets of Rage 2.
Streets of Rage 2 is the one I wanted to point out. Maniac mode, which is like just crazy hard. This is objectively the best beat 'em up of all time. Come at me. It is so good.
I love Streets of Rage 2.
I've been wanting to do an episode on this for a long time, so hopefully it'll come. But this game is just really fun. He played as Max, who's the big giant guy who I always played as Skate, the little kid with this roller skates. But
I think his name's Blade, isn't it? Isn't it?
No,
Blades?
it's Skate. It's Skate.
Are you sure his name's Skate?
There's bad guy. Just Google it. Google it.
I believe you.
But it was really chaotic. Like there's just so many enemies. There was actually a decent bit of interesting tech, and the couch did a really, really good job of articulating the tech that we were seeing, which is something that's incredibly needed for beat 'em ups, I think, because we're not as familiar with that tech as we are. Hey, I'm damage boosting through this enemy in a in a platformer, or hey, I'm going to clip into the wall. So a lot of the tech was really cool to see, and also beat 'em up runs are not quite as I don't know how to articulate this, but they're not quite as predictable as beat 'em up runs. Like beat 'em up runs, you don't know how every enemy is going to behave, and so there is a lot of reacting and stuff. And I felt like the runner's talent really shined through with reacting to the different situations, along with the strong couch. Golden Axe, another Genesis game that I loved as a kid. Just cool to see it beaten in like 8 or 9 minutes. It's just a lot of fun, and gave me some nostalgia feels, so I really enjoyed those.
Beat 'em ups are just so hard because I feel like it's hard as a viewer to see what makes them fast.
Yes. And that's why I recommend the Streets of
Rage. Or
it's
the other problem where it's just one attack the whole time, because that's
one exploit
way.
that you do over and over.
Because ultimately every game has like one fastest way to get through things,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so I think some of the fun of beat 'em ups is seeing the different ways of dispatching enemies, like casually playing through it. So when you're just, special move the whole time, it's a little less fun.
It's always so interesting.
They are a hard spot.
It's always so interesting to see beat 'em ups that sort of break that mold. I mean, like TMNT 4, I think, is the best example I can think of, where the run isn't just the same thing over and over. It has a lot of variety to it, and yet it's still at its heart a beat 'em up. So.
Yeah, I'll say also there were the Splatterhouse games, which I forgot about. But yeah, Streets of Rage 2 has a lot of different tech to it, not just one or two exploits, but also the couch did a really good job of articulating them without getting in the weeds. And I strongly recommend that if you're a beat 'em up skeptic for speedrunning, to go check out that run, because the run was very interesting, and the commentary really lended to just making you aware of where the time saves are coming. There was multiple different ways to exploit iframes during certain attacks, and to do certain things to hit other enemies and chain things off. So definitely recommend checking that out. What about you guys?
So I got a Hat in Time. So a Hat in Time is a
Fresh
game.
race.
I have not had any real motivation to play it myself, but as a speed run, it's really fascinating to watch. There's so much going on there. There's levels that remind me so much of Super Mario Sunshine and the movement that's associated with that game. And then on top of that, there's a lot of really great glitches and tricks and skips that allow you to really go fast. And it's a really fascinating speedrun to watch, and that race was just really fun to watch. The lead change right at the very end, I won't spoil it for how it ends, but the lead change right at the very end had me on the edge of my seat. One runner goes into the end of the game and is a surefire win, and then one little mistake gives us a lead change in the last few minutes. So
yeah, I only caught the end of that, so I didn't get to quite enjoy the whole run, but I got to enjoy the drama of it, and it was a definite watch. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a super cool run. I recommend it.
Also, in terms of just close races, Shantae and the Pirates Curse with our
so
girl,
close.
Yeah, with our girl Tina Hacks and JT Nori. This is probably a terrible
Also
podcast to listen to.
Change,
Yeah, this is probably a terrible podcast to listen to if you don't want spoilers. But yeah, lead change in the last phase of the last boss. So that was a really cool race. I was rooting for my girl Tina. Got to know JT over the week, and they both just executed really well. There's a lot of RNG in that game, so it was definitely possible for there to be a much more sizable gap between the runners, just based on one of them getting a lot better luck than the others. But and that did seem to be what was happening. But then JT Nori took kind of a death, quote unquote. He got caught in the sneaky section, and that readjusted the bad RNG Tina got, and so it got to be an execution race at the end, which was really cool.
Yeah,
the community around that game is really great. JT Norimaki, Tina Hacks, Rogue Link, Turkey was on Twitter hyping up the race and just being so excited for the both of them doing the run. Tina and Rogue Link were just constantly doing races in the practice room like all week. It was just they're a great little community. If you think that you might be interested in Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, you should definitely check it out because it's a great little crew to be involved with.
For sure.
I really loved the Tomb Raider run.
Oh
Yeah.
It was great. It was well commentated. It's a hard game. It's a hard game casually. It's a super hard speedrun because the controls are really, really wonky. It was also had some really fun glitches that I did not know about before. I wouldn't say it's like a game that I can remember seeing in many marathons lately. The original old Tomb Raider. It's also this is like the worst thing I've ever said. But this is the first time I've ever actually seen the game being played without nude code on, or the nude Rome hack that was on it back in the day. I'm sorry.
Wow.
So that was really fun for me. It was just I thought it was an awesome run, awesome couch. It's a difficult game to play. And I think those games with I would almost compare it to like QWOP, you know what I mean? Or something like that.
There's a glitch in
the
game that's referred to as the QWOP glitch, I think, because it you like break the walk cycle in order to clip through a wall or something like that. But Bexkey, I think is her name. She was the runner. She gives such like a nice sort of low key commentary that's really enjoyable to watch. Like just on pure commentary alone, I think Bexkey was her run was probably one of the better ones all week, and the game is just really interesting. It's not a super fast-paced game. It's got some really nice glitches, and it's got a good pacing to it. It was a really enjoyable watch. I watched a lot of it, so.
Yeah, you were actually in my room when that was on. We were all hanging out in my room, and I was not aware that game was so glitched either. There was some sort of point where we all kind of stopped whatever we were doing and started watching the Tomb Raider run because it started getting real glitchy. She was like floating through walls or something, and seemed just like a really good run. I want to go back and kind of check out the whole thing for. Another one from me is Kirby's Dream Land Extra Mode. You see a lot of these games get put in that you've seen a million times over, and similar to the Super Metroid thing, it's nice to see a new category, but I'd never seen Extra Mode for Kirby's Dream Land, and it's definitely a pretty difficult version of Kirby's Dream Land. It's actually very difficult, and it's kind of the big criticism you make about Kirby, right? Is that like, oh, these games are so fun, but they're so easy, but I don't think I could beat Kirby's Dream Land Extra Mode without like several hours of time put into it, and to watch EBC Bloody Candy beat that in like whatever the estimate was, it was under 15 minutes, was really cool. You know, you can't take the damage that you're supposed to take normally, and there's a lot of different strats going through it. Normally you're taking 1 hit of damage from everything, and you have 6 health, but things are doing 3 or 4 hits of damage, and it was really interesting to watch for sure.
It's a cool run. It's I mean, Kirby's Dream Land is already sort of one of those runs that I never want to do it myself. There's such a brutal RNG component to actually doing the run that I just do not find interesting, but watching someone play it at a high level is pretty cool. It's got a lot of really neat sort of unexpected tricks to it that make the run pretty fast. So
plus EBC soft locked it 2 minutes in, so he can join Pooh on that, you know, and that list of people who soft locked during GDQ, and he just went ahead, hit that reset button, and restarted. So that's your lesson for the future.
There's a long list of people who have done that, though. I mean,
yeah, it's a long list.
That was it was Lack Attack also had his soft lock in Zelda 1, and he had to restart it. Who's the other one that happened this GDQ? I think it was someone I was on the couch for. Who was it? There was a game that like crashed and they had to start it over like a few minutes in. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I can't keep track of all the couches you're on.
I wish you would. I wish you'd do better about it. So Kingdom Hearts 1.5 Remix. I never really had a lot of love for Kingdom Hearts speedrunning, but now that I've actually played through Kingdom Hearts 1, I now am a big fan. Big fan. It's pretty cool to watch. I think Kingdom Hearts is a really neat action RPG, and I think I now am able to develop the proper amount of appreciation for that speedrun now that I have some context for it. And so I went back and watched that when I got home, and it's a really cool speedrun, and they did the level 1 Sephiroth at the end, which I can't beat at whatever the hell level I am on my game. And he beats him at level 1, and my jaw was just on the floor the whole time watching him beat him level 1 brave mode, 0 experience.
Yeah, that's one I really want to go back and watch because I do really like the singing breaks and the
I
singing
loved it.
incentives.
Yeah, the
They
singing
usually do
was
a
the
good
best part
job.
for me.
I know people don't like stuff like that. Some people think it's cringe, but like
I
as
loved
somebody
it.
who sang a Disney song at a GDQ, I think
I
it's
loved
fun.
yours.
It makes it playful. It makes it you know, we're enjoying things from our childhood for the most part, you know, from being kids, and it just brings back that wholesome fun part. And there's a lot of talented people at GDQ. Like people really nail those songs. So
They were very good.
Yeah, it's fun to see who comes up and who you didn't realize could sing, and you're like, oh wow.
I mean,
really
it's
cool.
just it's really wholesome. Like, you know, when Hulk sang A Whole New World on the couch for his Aladdin run, but like they take that to the next degree by letting you do a donation war for which songs you want to hear, and then they come up and do those during what is otherwise an auto scroller in the game. Like, what a great way to feature people from the community and just do something lighthearted and fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously. The people who
and take away the auto scroller.
Exactly. So
like you think of all these times where like a run has like boring parts and people just don't think of what to do, and this community said, hey, we've got a great idea for what to do, and now they've made it more entertaining during those parts, you know, than it would be normally. So
yeah, I mean, speaking of entertaining, I would say Bionic Commando Rearm 2 was entertaining, if for no other reason. It created the meme of the week, you know what I mean? I think each week gets each GDQ has its own meme, and this one was definitely I love.
Yeah, we were in the green room while that was happening, and I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I love that they changed the category on the screen to any percent, but with like 1,000 A's.
Yeah, that was funny.
It was just a lot of fun. PJ puts on a really good show. He's you know, he's got a great following of people who really love him, and he's the sort of person, he is the example we were talking about before of just people who don't take their couches seriously. There's so much technical stuff going on in his speedrun, but I mean, that's just not his focus. He just wants you to have fun watching a goofy game do goofy things. Like, that's him. So
absolutely. Moving on, Biomiracle, you were on that couch. That's a game that the first episode of the Frame Savers was about Biomiracle, and this particular run at GDQ was world record.
Yes, it was.
I think Eon had gotten better times offline, she
in
the practice room, but
she had gotten some better times in practice, but that was a recorded world record by several seconds, which, I mean, she's gone a long way. She had the world record. She took it from me, and then White Hat took the world record from her, and then she took it back. And since she is like her and Calarelia has put a ton of effort into routing that game, coming up with new setups, new consistent strats on bosses and things like that. And she executed a lot of things that you don't realize how tough they are. She executed a lot of them pretty much perfectly. There were only a few strats in that entire game that sort of went a little bit sideways. And for her, a little bit sideways is like my old world record level. So it's just, it's amazing how well she executed that run because of how challenging it actually is. So,
well, that's the world record because I learned from a wise man named Chad Waters that no vid, no did.
That's the one.
And then once you get world record in your SGDQ run, like can you keep running the game? You gotta just put that until you get bopped. You gotta put that in the world record video, right?
Yeah, you don't break that one. I don't care how many like little problems you got. You put that bad boy on speedrun.com and let it go.
Yeah, my PB for Avenging Spirit Good Ending is my GDQ PB, and I'm like, I'm never touching this again. I could use a GDQ VOD as my PB.
World record for Rocky and Bullwinkle's SNES. That's GDQ VOD. You can't touch that. It's greatness, you know.
I agree.
So you guys have to tell me about the rest of these games because I don't know anything about.
Minor Ultra Adventures.
Okay.
I am 99% sure that you can't even die in this game if you tried. But Konosumi plus Couch.
Konosumi, the one who did all the car games, like the car
PG.
Okay. I need to check this out. I don't even care what the game is.
Dude, he was hilarious. The couch was great. They cosplayed, which I am a big fan of people who cosplay as the characters in the games for the runs, especially overnight games. Konosumi, he was right after Pepsi Man. He was great, man. It was great. He was
I
awesome.
need to see if I follow Konosumi because I don't know if Konosumi is like eggnog where I only want
wanna
him
be friends with
seasonally,
him.
or I want
Yeah,
to
I wanna
watch
be
him all
friends
the
with him.
time. But every time he performs at GDQ, his run is like exactly what I want. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
want to
Like,
be.
he has just
He's
this-
like someone I want to be friends with. I've never met him. I've never even like walked by him because I would say hey, but like I want to be friends with
his
Konosumi.
pick of games just makes him the perfect human being. I love it.
He's super
Just
great.
picks-
He did Densha Day D at the last GDQ,
Yep.
the
train-
train racing game.
Yep.
He's always got a lot of these in the chamber. He is definitely.
I'm so jealous. I wish I could even think of these games existing.
Yeah.
Let alone once I find them actually being willing to put that kind of time into them. Like, I don't know. It's just impressive.
I mean, I am not sure that he had to put much time into this game. I'm not positive about that.
He's
Okay,
actually.
I could be wrong. You could have thousands and thousands of hours.
He has put a lot more effort than you would believe into Minor Ultra Adventures. This is, by the way, Minor Ultra Adventures is a series of games that was made, I think, by a Brazilian developer, and they're all just as weird as the other, and they all feature like the same main character, this doofy looking guy in a big straw hat. It's a very strange thing that exists. Like, I can't believe that it exists. And that was Silly Block. So Silly Block had in it as well. There was also Stilt Fella, which I think if you didn't see,
that one was fun.
if you didn't see Stilt Fella,
I didn't. I don't know what this is at all.
Super recommend that you go and watch Stilt Fella. Just a game where you have to walk in a straight line on stilts to get to the end. But boy, is it something.
Wow.
This game,
that
by
one
the
was
way,
hard. That one was fun too. The couch really made that one because every time he finished a level, they lit up. They went ham for it, and probably rightfully so because that game looked hard as anything.
Yeah,
like,
it was. It was Fat
Yeah.
Homie doing the run, Studio and Used Pizza and Eggman on the couch, and like, what a lineup of people to just sit there and be goofy about a video game.
That's what I was pushing for your SMB3 run. I tried to whisper to Glib that I wanted to push for standing ovation every boom boom that got killed.
Yeah,
But
the
he wasn't willing
estimate
to do it.
the estimate for this run was 20 minutes, and he finished it in 9. So
Oh gosh.
I feel like that
Oh,
should.
yeah, but you could tell why he gave himself so long.
Like, there's a
There were
lot
few
of time to
levels-
lose. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few levels where he was just like he couldn't cut the tape. He'd be like at the end, but for whatever reason the tape wouldn't cut, so you couldn't move on. It was.
Okay,
was
I need to
great.
watch Stilt Fella. That's at the top of my queue now.
Yeah. It was great.
Also, I don't know if these are considered silly block, but we did Kid Cool, and was Kid Cool silly block?
Kid Cool was not.
Tarchan.
Kid Cool was toward the beginning of the week. So the silly block was Pepsi Man, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, Minor Ultra Adventure, Roundabout, which saw another showing, this time a much shorter one, which I think was a good fit for it. Roundabout's that game where you play in the taxi that's constantly spinning. It had a pretty good showing because it was a much shorter category this time. Then Live, which I don't think I can provide commentary on that game. It was just too weird. Then Stilt Fella, Club Drive with Pete Dorr, Biomiracle, and then Yo Noid 2.
I slept during that because I had to wake up early for Tarchan, but that's a really great block. I got to give shout outs to the ones I couched for. Kid Cool, Smart Ball put up a really good run of Smart Ball, or of Kid Cool. He had like a low 19. Wacky Races the Cov, that was his first appearance. He actually won the Big 20 recently, was 4 or 5 seconds off of his PB,
Oh, that's great.
which is really amazing. He almost got a sub 19. Tarchan is just, it's the best game, and me and Off had a lot of fun on the couch together.
Tarchan was the next
That's
thing in
good.
Silly Block, and then finally Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures,
Yep.
which is
That's definitely recommend those runs. Tarchan was really funny, and then we also got to do Goof Troop together, which was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, the Silly Block was a really strong lineup. Like, if you're looking for just a good block of games to go back and binge watch, none of these are particularly long. Most of them are about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Most of them are much shorter than that. But the Silly Block was just a really good lineup of games this time around. So, worth a watch.
Definitely going to go check those out. We also had the Hob by our boy Half Coordinated. How was that?
That game's really cool. That is a really neat game with a lot of really great speed tech. And actually, Half Coordinated was talking to us in the middle of the week about how new strats got found after he had arrived at SGDQ. So he spent most of his week like learning the new strats, new tricks, things that saved like 30, 40 seconds. so that he could feature them in his run. So a lot of dedication there to trying to show off the game properly, which I think is really respectable.
That's got to be the worst when you get there and it's just like a ton of new, strats all of a sudden. You're just like, damn it.
Yeah. So we have.
You're like, wow. So do I figure these out in the 1 day or 2 days I have to practice?
Exactly.
Or like, how hard are they? Do I feel even like, do I feel too nervous to be able to like try and implement something new when I've been doing something for weeks?
Exactly.
So the Tarchan run was a bunch of fun. I was on the couch for it, as were you, right, John? And their horse dad as well. Sorry, you and I were on a bunch of couches together, so I forgot exactly which ones.
It's kind of like you too.
Yeah, you're a pretty good guy. I would strongly recommend watching the Yonoid run as well. Yonoid 2 is a really crazy speed game, but it's actually pretty optimized, and the runner put on a good showing for that run. I think it was really a great watch if you kind of want to see what that run's all about. It's silly.
We were going to lose it if he did not use the dab button. We
were
very worried. We were in the green room waiting for Tarchan, and we're like, if he does not use the dab button, like, we are out. We are leaving GDQ and it's over. But
I don't know. See, I gotta roll with the Yonoid 1 world record holder, Jakku.
Jakku's anti-dabbing.
I'm in a very big what do I want to say? I'm boycotting Yonoid 2.
Okay.
Oh wow. Wow.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got the anti-dabbing and the pro-dabbing.
It has a dabbing button, and like I knew about it, and I knew the runner knew about it. There's no doubt about it. But like he waited until like the last minute of the run to finally hit it, and I had so much anticipation. Like it was hurting me. I was like, when is he just gonna hit the button? Like
because it's like if that were your run, you'd have hit the button 3,000 times.
3,000 times.
I would have just spammed the button the whole time. He makes a noise every time you hit the button. I would have just spammed it the whole run. I would have driven people crazy, but he had a lot of restraint, and I respect that.
It's interesting how neither of us have been getting runs into GDQ lately. I wonder if there's a correlation here.
Yeah, that's true. So one thing I really wanted to talk about during the You May Have Missed It block, because it's a Sonic game, and honestly, who watches those? But Sonic 3 and Knuckles by Mike89 was, first off, a fantastic run to watch. I have never watched a Sonic game that I was so entertained by because it's Sonic games. But he put on a fantastic show, and for those of you who don't know, he is anticipating retirement from speedrunning. This was presumably his last GDQ appearance. He just recently did his last marathon stream. It was a big, like, I think it was 24 hours long. It was a long stream, but you know, he's hanging up the belt. He's been at the game. He's been at speedrunning for more than a decade at this point. It has to be. And he is retiring from speedrunning, and this was his last showing. And a whole bunch of people came out for the run. The room was about as packed as you're going to get for midday Sonic. And people were, you know, standing ovation at the end of it. He is a pillar of the speedrunning community, an absolute, you know, from the old SDA days, a huge part of the speedrunning community. And it really showed from all the people who came out to support him. So I think that was really nice.
Absolutely. There's a strong Sega showing in this GDQ with some of those games we talked about earlier, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, the Sonic games, Kid Chameleon as well, being one of those Genesis games that, was this the 90% category?
Which one, Sonic 3 and Knuckles?
Oh, Kid Chameleon.
Oh, Kid Chameleon, I think was just any percent.
I did a sick segue into Kid Chameleon for you.
I'm very sorry.
Just waiting. I put it up on the tee, and you started Googling things.
My dude, I was trying to find the Kid Chameleon run. I've been putting them up on screen.
I'll say, I guess I'll give one more while we're waiting here, is I got to watch some of the Deus Ex runs, and I don't know anything about Deus Ex. I've never played that game. I never will watch another run or play the game probably. And that's kind of the fun thing about GDQ is like popping on and I see like some game that I'm certain I will never play, but I get to like experience some sort of whole amount of it in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And those runs had a lot of pretty cool glitches and breaks in them, which were enjoyable.
Oh, I watched Simpsons Hit and Run. That run was pretty sick too.
Heck yeah, my dude.
They much anticipated Simpsons Hit and Run.
Yeah, has it been having a hard time getting into the marathon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a relatively run game. You know?
It's a really popular speed run, so it's kind of interesting that it's taken them so long to sort of pick it up, but it's a really cool run, so I'm glad that they showed it off.
More like Simpsons hit and speed run.
Got him.
Got him. Anything else before we close out this section of what you may have missed?
No, you
Unless
probably...
somebody wants to talk about Pikmin 3. That's, I think, our last one here.
Yeah.
I mean, Chrism's always great.
Yeah, he always puts on a really good show, but I haven't watched it yet, so that fits better under we missed it and I want to see it. So,
got it. Okay, well then let's go ahead and take a quick break, listen to some hot, fresh music, and then we're going to talk about some of the runs we want to go see.
all right, so this is our opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the runs we missed. I mean, we absolutely even if we watched around the clock from the moment we got back from GDQ, we could not have caught everything that was going on there. And you know, the GDQ events, there are a ton of really great runs that you know, we all like to go back and watch throughout the next coming months. So you know, we just shifted off of runs that you might have missed, runs you probably saw. Now we're talking about runs that we know we like and we want to see, but we haven't caught them yet. So
yeah, for sure. I can kick this off. I missed all of Mega Man Block, and that bums me out. I love Mega Man games quite a bit. I just didn't feel like I had to, you know, move my plans around to see the games that I've seen a million times, but I do want to go back. I know the Mega Man 6 race, I caught the end of that, was really close. It was a really close race between a lot of top runners in that game, and so that was a really good one. But I didn't really get to catch any others. I want to see No Constancy. I don't know what that is, and I'm assuming it's some sort of
that's the ROM hack where you have like no iframes at all. So every time you get hit, you just take damage again instantly. So
okay, so I want to see that because that seems cool, but I was bummed to miss that.
Yeah, the Mega Man 6 run I heard was just fantastic. Shoutouts to Dark Teryx from our Star Tropics episode, who apparently had the best run of that race. Only ended up losing it because he went for a pretty challenging trick at the end of the run. But really, the run ended up so close. All of the runners coming in within just a minute of each other or so, I think.
They were all within a minute, all four of them, which is kind of crazy. You usually expect someone to take some sort of huge mistake that'll at least put them, you know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes behind, but everybody was real close.
Yeah, that was really great. I want to watch Pet the Pup at the Party. That game is very wholesome.
It was awesome, actually.
Yeah,
I fell asleep during it. I was so bummed because it looked like an amazing thing that I wish I had witnessed.
Yeah, it's procedurally generated, so every apartment is completely random. You've never seen it before, and you have to find the good boy who's barking. Because why would you want to talk to all the people at the party? Instead, you could pet the pup. So it was 10 levels was the category, and it's a really like obviously it's not a really serious speed game. It's a randomizer at its heart, or maybe you would like to think of it more like a roguelike. But it's
just like Binding of Isaac petting the puppies.
Yeah, I mean, you're navigating an apartment that's completely random. You're just trying to figure it out. But it's just such a neat game to watch. It's just fun. It's casual fun where you're working your way through the apartment and you're hearing the barking getting louder and louder, and you find out like, oh, I went down the wrong way. There's a dead end here, so you have to go back around. Like, I don't know who owns these apartments. They're massive, but it's pretty great.
I want to speak to the Axiom Verge run, actually, because I did get to watch this one. And G-Virus, first of all, he ran this game a few years back, and it did not go well for him. So it's really fun to see a guy come back and get to run it again. His, estimate is like 20 minutes less than the first time he ran it, too, which is also great. But also just, like, have a great run and, like, get kind of your redemption run in there, if for more or less, you know what I mean? Because I think... if you have a bad run, all you can think about is like the next time you get to do it. So for him to actually get that and achieve that, I think that's got to be a pretty big moment for him. So props to G-Virus for coming back and doing that.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy.
That's really great.
Too.
Yeah, I was watching him play it a bit in the practice room, and it looked like an amazing run. I definitely want to check that out. Along with, I actually want to check out the Oracle of Seasons run. I didn't get to see that. I'm always on the fence because I have not played Oracle or Ages of Seasons, which is ridiculous because LADX is one of my 5 favorite games, and it's the same game. But yeah, I was excited to see an Oracle game in there. Anything Game Boy related is nice. This was one of the lightest Game Boy GDQs there's ever been, for sure. So it'd be nice to at least see a GBC game like that, and I've heard it's a cool run.
There was a donation incentive for which Animal Pal to get, and VB actually tweeted out letting people know, by the way, just so you know, if you pick Dimitri, you're automatically making the run 5 minutes slower. So everyone was submitting for Dimitri.
Oh, that was the runner that tweeted that out?
No, VB was not the runner, but Mighty Math was the runner. But VB was like, by the way, if you do if you pick Dimitri,
if you want to troll people right now with your money, here's the way to do it.
Yeah,
I saw that
because it adds the 5-minute dance cutscene for I can't remember the name of the area, but it was just sort of like a troll donation that people picked up on and ran with, so that was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
The Paper Mario run, I love Paper Mario. Come and fight me. Everyone says TTYD is the best one, but Paper Mario 64 is the best Paper Mario. There pretty much are no other Paper Mario games. And I'm really looking forward to watching this run because I get such a kick out of the Paper Mario 64 speedrun, and seeing it played at a GDQ always means really fantastic commentary explaining all the tricks really well. So I'm personally looking forward to seeing that one.
Absolutely. I want to see Sonic Spinball. I know that's been submitted a ton of times, and I grew up playing that game as a kid. I don't know if it's a particularly interesting speed game. I feel like it does have a lot of randomness to it, but I want to check that run out. It's just a fun game and weird and quirky. And,
it's a really cool speed run. The runner messed up a skip in the first level. I was watching this because it came on right before Mike 89's Sonic runs, and I didn't want to miss those. So I was watching Spinball. I'm surprised because I've never watched a real Sonic Spinball speedrun, and I'm surprised by how much cool tech there is in a Sonic pinball game. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It has really interesting tech, a lot of really nuanced gameplay that goes along with it. So like hearing Mike 89 commentate on top of the game and explaining all of like the really detailed things he's doing was a real treat. So it's a cool run.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and checking that out, since I've actually never watched the game run, but I grew up playing it all the time.
Yeah, so there's
anything else?
Enter the Gungeon is a game that I don't really know very well, but it's had this big boom in popularity. I just, everyone loves that game.
It's kind of a roguelike game. Yeah. I heard there was some actually some like unfortunate RNG in this run.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, so I'm not I know it's interesting.
Sure.
Like that's the one thing. Like I know this is an interesting run, but I did hear it did not go perfect. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those games that I know is super popular right now, and I've just done nothing to seek it out. So a GDQ is always a great opportunity when games like that pop up for me to watch the run finally, because the runners and the commentators always do such a great job of trying to like present the game to an audience that knows nothing about it. And so I'm really looking forward to watching it so I can kind of get the gist of what's going on with the game. So.
Absolutely. Outside of the normal stuff that I'd go back and see, I think there's usually like a list of games that I'm not excited to see, but I still want to go back and watch. I really want to watch Resident Evil HD remake because that's one of my favorite games ever, and it looks like they did 100% good ending, which means they're not just doing the any percent route to go as quick as possible. I don't know if that means they did both scenarios or what, but I want to go back and watch that. And the main thing, I want to go back and watch Silly Block because clearly I missed a lot of gems in the Silly Block section.
Yeah, Pepsi Man, dude. Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I've seen the Pepsi Man.
I will say, like, Pepsi Man, and even being a part of both of them, like, this one felt a little forced.
Until Wanda Gamelon is on our screen, I will never watch Pepsi Man ever again.
Wanda Gamelon needs to happen still, man.
I've turned it down 5 times. I think I'm starting to get the hint, so...
No, I feel like that run has mad meme potential. So
we'll see.
Absolutely.
Any other runs that we want to mention? I feel like we missed mentioning very much about Tarchan. The Tarchan run was just really entertaining. It's not a super technical run, but it's just fun to watch. And it was kind of goofy for middle of the night. And then the Goof Troop run we didn't really mention very much about, which the Goof Troop run was actually a really great polished run. BB Forky and Swordsman Kirby did a great job. They beat every showing of Goof Troop that's ever been at a GDQ. So that's pretty awesome.
By a lot, by like 2
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, they beat it by 15 seconds. Like that game's been in a lot of, like a couple GDQs, and they got a 19, like a low
18
19
something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 1850, probably 9:58. Like the timer stopped a little
Right.
early because some idiot on the couch yelled time, which was not me. Obviously, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, they stopped it early because of me. But,
that was also the run where we hit
so-
$1 million, and I got a pretty good laugh by saying, anyway, what we were saying was right after the big hype around 1 million. So
yeah.
any other runs that we failed to mention in any of these
Someone put
slots?
Borderlands in here. Somebody put Borderlands.
Yeah, the
in here.
Borderlands run, Emery Lynn, and I don't remember who his co-op partner was. That run is co-op Borderlands. I have such a love of co-op speedruns, and it's a co-op first-person shooter. I put it in the We Missed It because I haven't watched it yet, but I really want to watch it. But we'll get to it. We'll get there. So I think that's good for us now. I mean, obviously, sorry if we missed the game you ran or your favorite game. We couldn't do everything. We were trying to also make you some content while you're there, with the panel and such. But definitely go follow Games Done Quick on YouTube. You can get the feed for all of these different games. They've also edited them much better this year. Like there's not the 25 minutes of gap time in front of each run. They actually all have thumbnails now and kind of start off right away, which is cool. So go load up your queue on your YouTube and get ready to watch those runs. And we're going to take a quick break and organize some of your live Q&A. All right, so as usual, we've got some questions from you from our Discord server. If you ever want to ask us questions, we have some rooms dedicated just to you asking questions in advance of the runs. If you have any questions that you've asked in chat, we haven't been able to keep up with chat quite as well as usual, so feel free to throw them out again, and we'll make sure that we collect them to ask now, so feel free to shoot them out. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and start with a question from our Discord server by Dr. No. Says, I've seen a lot of people compliment the overall quality of SGDQ 2018 compared to previous GDQs, at least from a stream perspective. Was the vibe the same in the room, and what do you think made this marathon stand out compared to other GDQs?
I guess I'll weigh in on this first. I wasn't in the room for any of the times when they did some of the interview pre-game, pre-show, and different skits in between. And I think that was a big part of what they stepped up. So I don't know if it was perceived different in the room, but I did think they did a much they just clearly put more effort into trying to find some fun, silly things to do in between, runs. They did like 60 interviews, I think, which is a ton of interviews. They've been really ramping those up, which is awesome. They've just done a much better job of handling the dead time, I feel like, and also not feeling like they just left the camera on for somebody else to make themselves a meme or not a meme in between. the way they handle the
Oh.
in-between setup screens and everything seems a little bit more professional now.
Well, even the camera, I would say even the camera that normally they're like, don't go get in front of the camera. This time they were like zooming in on certain audience members at like
Oh, were
weird
they?
times. And like, yeah, and totally, like it was actually really great. I just had zero problems with, I thought they had a lot of fun this year. I think it's a sign also that they're getting really good at doing this.
Yes.
To the point where they can have some fun and they can relax a little bit and they can, you know what I mean, play with the format because they're getting really, really good at putting these events on.
The Stumi red card thing was really funny. I really liked that. I loved that they took a shot at all the people who say GDQs aren't fun by doing a fun skit. That just, I think most people who were there appreciated that. I did not read how Reddit felt about that, but you know, I think they did a good job. I always find the overlays and stuff to be a bit cluttered, but I think they looked really good this year. I think still the in-between screens have so much information on them that they've reformatted how they look, and they look really cool, but they can still be a bit busy. But I don't know the solution to that. I'm not a graphic designer. I think everything, it looks really good. It's been more professional. I think in the room it's felt the same way the past probably 4 GDQs. It's all felt the same. I think it's more of an on-stream experience, though. Like, yeah. I can't. The only notable difference I can think of between being in the room and not being in the room from the past is when they used to have the couch off to the side where you couldn't see it in kind of its own little section with like 15 seats behind it. So if you sat behind the couch, like you actually had to be asked by the runners. And that was what, 3 years ago. Yeah. Since they changed that, I felt like everything in person always felt the same. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think it really does. It's the interviews that are playing a huge role in it. And I think that it's easy to not recognize that is playing as big of a part as it does. But I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and in Twitch chat anytime that I'm brave enough to venture there, talking about how they just wish that they'd move on to the game and stop wasting so much time with the interviews. But what people are really missing is that the interviews are not taking up time. They're covering up for tech issues.
Exactly.
On a marathon at this scale, you might think to yourself, well, the previous run was on NES and the next run's on NES. So what is it? You just take out the cartridge and put in a new one. But there's actually a lot of moving parts to the run. I mean, if you're there on stage, you start to see some of those. You know, subtracting out all of the little tech issues that we don't even see, you have things like balancing the audio, getting all the commentators set up, balancing their audio individually and making sure that everyone's hearing what they need to hear, making sure that the commentators can see all the TVs so they turn on and off TVs as necessary, getting things sent to the right places, making sure that the runner and the commentators, if they want to, can actually see the stream output TV so you can see things like the donation total and all the information on screen like the timer. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to it. And so in past GDQs, you'd have a 10-minute long setup block where it would just be the announcer talking for the whole thing. But now we're replacing that with interviews. An interview that lasts 6 or 7 minutes is really nothing to think about. And then you only have to see 3 minutes of the announcer sort of vamping before the next run starts. And that makes a huge difference in the tempo and the pacing for the marathon, because you don't feel like there's a lot of downtime because they've got this goofy interstitial stuff.
It keeps the momentum going for sure. Also, the professionalism's really high. Like you said, as somebody who used to play a lot of live shows and dealt with a lot of sound engineers, like, this is handled the same way it would be if I were on stage playing bass for something or anything. Like, they make sure everybody's got the right balance in their ears for who they need to hear, game sound wise, other commentators wise. They do a really good job of that. And so that stuff takes time to set up in between. And that always used to add up to this 8-10 minute gap between runs where, like, it was on, you know, just on the crowd and people would meme, and like then the person would read off some more donations and, you know, less interesting donations, and it just kind of lost the momentum until the next one kicked up. So they've done a really good job of just getting the flow of the whole thing going better. I think it's great, and it's just a shout out to the talents of the staff. They've got a lot of talented people like Spike and Sent, who are willing to kind of be silly and make fools of themselves for the, you know, for the entertainment of the people. I know a bit about that. I tend to make fun of myself a lot on this podcast or for other things for entertainment, and it's just you know, it makes it more lighthearted. I think it's been a lot of fun.
So Andy J. Retro from Discord asks, besides one of your own submissions, what would you have put on the schedule that wasn't there?
All of Oth's submissions.
Oh, that's sweet. I would have put
I would have put all of John's runs.
I would have allowed
I'd
him
say
to do his 3-hour Game Boy Quest preview, where he just shows off every Game Boy game he's ever played. I would have wanted to watch that.
No,
Now,
I honestly
I
like.
have a real answer for this.
Go for it.
I wish Link to the Past Rando was just an established game at this point.
Yeah, I would have loved
I'd
that.
love it.
I'd like to see a lot more of the randomizers. I mean, I joke on this podcast in general about randomizers and whether or not they're truly a speedrun, but they're certainly speedrun adjacent, and they fit, if anywhere, they fit a lot better at a GDQ than they fit anywhere else. And I think that they are just such a good potential fit for a GDQ audience to sort of show off, hey, here's a game that you already love, watch us do wacky things in it.
Yeah, I think part of that maybe is the fact that they're doing this big speed gaming event in September in Reston, which is near where GDQ is. There's Speed Gaming is hosting a live randomizer event and stuff, so maybe that's going to be part of that.
GDQ also has GDQ Express as well, which
so maybe they'll put a run there.
Yeah, being at TwitchCon, I don't know how that would play out to like a really casual audience they might be expecting at TwitchCon.
Yeah, I think I agree though. I think
that's going to be full of some hitter games, if that makes sense.
I think it should be a yearly, or every event run would be good until it gets old. I don't think doing it 2 in a row would have been like overkill or anything.
I mean, you could have showed a different version. You know what I mean?
Different version, different type of randomizer. You could have done key sanity. You could have done entrance randomizer. There's all kinds of things you could do. I would agree with that for sure. I would honestly say Wanda Gamel, and I'm not saying that just because it's Chad's selection. I think I love meme games, and I love not that it's a meme game, but I love games in which a lot of fun and memes can come from them at a GDQ, like Pepsi Man. And I think that the cutscenes would just be so fun to watch and see 10,000, 100,000 people react to these ridiculous Zelda scenes. I would be a huge fan of that. I would have liked to see more Game Boy. Obviously, for me, like the only Game Boy games were Kirby's Dream Land and Pokemon, and like I just think that's kind of a missed opportunity. They're getting more Sega stuff in there sometimes. They're getting Game Gear every once in a while, but Game Boy had like this really nice block of games 2 years ago, and like since then they've just been like, no, we're not really putting them in there. So that's a bummer for me.
So we have BD Weasel from Discord asking recap question for Pooh regarding his race with Mitch. Number 1, what are some potential lessons you think future GDQ and other marathon runners / racers can take away from your race? So I'll leave it at that before I provide the other question.
Well, I think the number 1 lesson you have to understand about anything on Twitch is that it's live TV, and the number 1 thing I learned in journalism school is like anything can and will happen in live TV. And that this sounds really weird, but something we used to practice in journalism school was like your headphones would go out. So like the person that you're telling you stuff would be like in and out really randomly and things like that. And you had to talk through it and stuff like that. So I think one thing is just like anything can happen, and you got to roll with it. And the show must go on. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop just because your moment stopped or your moment. You know what I mean? You have to just adapt. Adapt to whatever it is and make it work in the framework you can. It was far from a perfect, I dreamed of a perfect ending and like this perfect run where we were within 5 seconds of each other and had perfect RNG. You know what I mean? That was my dream. Of course, it wasn't going to go that way, but it went way farther. It was way worse scenario than any of us had even talked about. But that's okay. You know what I mean? I think you just kind of gotta make chicken salad out of chicken poop sometimes and keep it going. And yeah, I think if anything, that's the one thing you can understand. And that goes all the way from like organizers, like all the way down, like stuff is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's not oh, this sucks, why is this happening? No, it's going to happen, especially when you're doing anything for 24 hours a day, extended period of time. It's going to happen. Just roll with it, prepare for it, lean into it when it does, and can be happy when it's over.
Yeah.
Remind me never to eat at your house ever.
Shout outs for not going for the more accepted turn of phrase, making lemonade out of lemons. But
yeah, that one's lame.
So the other question was, are there any potential takeaways you think for setup for folks who organize these marathons? So I was jokingly talking about a table, but honestly, like, it seems like it's got to stop. Stop putting consoles on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, like, even just like not even like a table, but like a footstool or something. We could
foam pad under there, so there's some shock resistance.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that would be an
Microphone.
obvious thing. I mean, if you've ever been on the GDQ stage, like they're just like sucking consoles in and out, pulling them out of like all crazy spots, and like the wiring there is kind of insane, and I understand why it ends up happening that way, but I think that would be a pretty obvious solution for me, because I don't want to see runners be like I don't want to be less emotional or have the less adrenaline. You know what I mean? I think that's
Sure.
part of it.
Sure.
And especially when you're in a live event, you know what I mean? I think you want to see that. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things, just an unfortunate thing, if for no other reason, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, putting consoles are just like, I think GDQ is unique because I don't really think many other in live marathons even have stages necessarily. Usually, like, it's just ground, and if it was just ground, it would have been fine because there would have been no vibration at all, really.
Right.
So,
Yeah, having everything
yeah.
up on risers definitely has a different impact.
For sure.
Yeah.
Zelnus asks, what are your guys' actual feelings on all the randoms stopping you in the halls? I know I'm guilty of it, but I do wish to know what the popular runners' thoughts are. Well, I don't think I belong in this list, so I don't know. I get overwhelmed a bit. I mean, I'm sure. I guess I'll start as the least popular viewer. I just get some social. As I've gotten older, I've become more of an introvert, and so I just get socially exhausted by just interacting with so many people in general. Even the people I'm very close to, like hanging out with all my friends for a week straight. I'm ready to live in my house by myself. That's just my normal life. So, but outside of that, anybody coming up to me to say hi or that they watch my stream or hear the podcast, like, just makes me so happy. Like, it's just it makes me feel awkward because I'm like, I don't really deserve the things you're saying, so it's just so sweet to hear it from people, but like I don't know how to process it always, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, me and John got stopped. Shout outs to Lat Mackey, who stopped us and was talking to us about the podcast for a while. Just everyone's so friendly at the GDQs. I feel like I get stopped more than the average person because I am not popular enough to have very clear-cut boundaries, but I am popular enough to be well known among other runners, and so I have a lot of people who introduce themselves to me, and I love it. I absolutely love meeting people. I mean, that's the whole reason why I'm in speedrunning, is because I love sort of having this communal experience with so many people who, you know, I don't run the same games as most of these people, and they say, hey, you know, I really love watching you play this game, or I stop by your stream once in a while, or I love your Twitter, which is always the weird one. But, you know, having people who just sort of want to introduce themselves to me, and we already instantly have something in common about, you know, a mutual love of playing video games fast, it's thrilling to me. I love that I have carved for myself this tiny little space of I'm sitting atop my throne of dirt, having everyone praise me for playing 1 or 2 video games kind of fast. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like we'll pass this off to Pooh, who has more actual experiences like this. But I will say, I feel the same way I do. I mean, there are a lot of people who know me at GDQ for one reason or another, whether it be the podcast, my stream stuff. And I'm usually just looking at them being like, why do I average 25 viewers a stream? Where are all you all at when I'm actually hitting that stream button? I literally had somebody come up to me and they're like, oh, John Carlos, I know you. I like you a lot. Like, I never watch your stream, but you seem really nice. And I'm like, join all the other people coming up and saying hi, you don't watch my stream. So
yeah.
No, but it's such a blessing to hear so many people say positive things, especially about the podcast and just about our content. What about you, Poom?
I mean, I would say that I'm probably in one of the more unique situations as far as speedrunners are concerned right now. And it's with the added people, I definitely could feel first of all, I always have time to stand and take a picture real quick and like tweet someone, and like I never don't have time for that. No matter what's going on, I totally have time for that. And you'll often see me, like I'll see that person that like doesn't want to interrupt what I'm doing, but they obviously want to get a picture, and I'll stop what I'm doing to go to take a picture. I always have time for that stuff. But it is getting a lot, I guess, and there's no like barrier at GDQs in any sort of way. And I know that sounds horrible to say, and it's part of the joy, that's part of the best part about it. But I do wish maybe like it'd be a lot easier for someone like me. And I don't want to, like, I'm trying to risk like sounding like a douchebag in here because but it would be easier if like I could just do like, hey guys, I have a meet and greet at this time and I'll be there for as many hours as it takes. I don't care. But like, you know what I mean? It'd be a lot easier if I could like plan it all into one time, because it's getting to the point where I can't even leave my hotel or like leave my room to get a bite with my wife without spending like an hour and a half to 2 hours just trying to get to the bar, you know what I mean? And that's fine and nice. And I want to talk to everyone, and I want to sit and talk and visit as much as I can. I think that part's still fine, and I think that's going to get, you know, as more and more people come to GDQs, it's going to become more and more of a thing, I would say. But I think the harder part more for me is like the there's always like one or two like hanger-ons. Hanger-ons.
Yeah.
And I'm nice. I'm a nice guy. I don't want to be rude.
Yeah, it's impossible to tell them that, sorry, I'm going to go this way, and if I walk that way, you can't walk that way too. But at the same time, there's just some people who don't necessarily always respect people's personal boundaries, I guess.
Yeah. Something I tweeted about before GDQ, and just the fact that, like, you know, if you're new to meeting someone, it's really hard going to GDQ and not knowing people, especially with so many people being established in relationships and groups and stuff. But it's like, you know, just ask or wait to be invited to something before you, if something's leaving locations, if something is moving, like, hey, to someone's room or to a restaurant, you know, ask before you go. Just follow people to those places. And it's something you encounter much more in an event like this than you do in a normal social gathering, because not everybody is honestly as socially apt and socially used to dealing with these types of situations than others. And so that can be hard, because you want to be sympathetic and you want everyone to feel welcome and you want everyone to have their friends there and stuff. But at the same time, you can't be that for everybody. So that's just a tough boundary.
It is so hard. And I don't ever want to like sound like ungrateful, because I am incredibly grateful. Like I take every picture that anyone's ever taken with me and I put them all in a folder, and I'm making big collages of them. I love it. Like I love doing that stuff, but it is it's getting harder in that particular space, just because, you know, like I don't know. It's like that it's a lot easier at PAX where nobody knows who I am, because they don't care about Ninja or whatever, you know what I mean? But in these speedrunning events, like when you're putting a lot of people in one space, it does become a lot of commitments. And I'm going to say yes and take pictures to everybody, with everybody that I can.
Yeah, you're also in the unique position of being very approachable. Like just in like as a personality type, you are very approachable. People,
I want to be.
Yeah, and that's great. No, I think that's a positive. In terms of this turning into an advice podcast, I'd say that in general, it's easier to make friends if you meet 100 people for 5 minutes than if you try to meet 5 people for 100 minutes. You're going to make a lot more friends the other way. So
I'll say it's to the point where I try friends like Pooh, friends even like Off, like I'm aware that you all probably exhausted when we're at the event, and so I try not to pester you all to hang out as much either. It's become an event where you sometimes kind of have to just.
It's a work week for me now. Like it's a straight up work week for me.
With my room kind of being a party room or a room where a lot of people feel welcome, there are a lot of nights where it's 4:30 a.m. and I was like, I want to go to bed, and there's still 9 people in here, and I only know 5 of them. So like, you kind of end up and I loved all those people. Some of them were new friends and stuff, but sometimes you need boundaries. You need like. You're in a whole different situation. You're not sleeping like you're normally supposed to. You're not eating like you're normally supposed to, and so it gets exhausting after a while. But it's ultimately just so great to meet so many new people and passionate people for sure.
For sure.
DK Wings has the next question. He says, "I guess this is from Twitter at the
from Twitch chat.
From chat. Oh, from chat. Okay. What do you think of panels? It's not getting broadcast, and some of you mentioned you were super busy throughout the event, so probably fewer people watched it live either. No flame, just asking opinions."
I think the panels are great. I think I think that this is the first step toward GDQ sort of embrace. I think the theme of this GDQ was GDQ finally embracing their size. I think for a long time, GDQ has sort of said, you know, we're a small event, we're a meetup, and they're trying to keep that. Everyone's saying, oh, we need it to be like the old GDQs where it's this comfy, small scale atmosphere. And GDQ is finally coming to terms with like, we're big. This is what we are. We're at 2,200 people at this event. Like, we can't operate like we're a small operation anymore. So they're putting more money into the productions. They're putting more people and staff on these other projects. And so panels is like the test run of some new convention style content. And I think that's great. I think GDQ needs it. I think GDQ needs it to sort of thin things out a little bit. You can't just expect 2,200 people to come to the event and congregate in one practice room. You kind of need stuff for people to do at scale. And so the panels, I think, are a great test run. I think that they put together a fantastic panel lineup for the first lineup. I'm personally really stoked to see them get posted to YouTube because I want to watch a bunch of them.
Yeah,
There's
me
some
too.
really great stuff. And I mean, like we said, it's a work week for us. I definitely feel that way at this point. This is the first one where I really felt like it was a work week. And,
Yeah, me too.
you know, I didn't get to go to like really any of the panels. I went to my panel that I was on, and I went to half of 2 other panels, and that was it. So I'm stoked to watch the panels. I think that this is a great thing, and I'm really, really hopeful that it's going to be it's going to be appreciated by viewers and by attendees and things like that, so we can kind of kick off this need to feel like we're a small little thing. It's not small anymore. Speedrunning's mainstream. We're getting more people involved. More people want to attend. You know, make it happen. So
yeah, absolutely, I agree. I don't want to repeat everything you all said. It is kind of a bummer they weren't broadcast. I think that was kind of implied in the question, but I think that's expected. This is a soft launch. I think it's hard to figure out how to do that. I don't know if they're willing to go to 2 streams. I think down the road I could foresee a second stream existing that shows tournaments and panels and content like that. At this point, it's not the right decision to do that. So definitely no flame. I mean, there wasn't room for more than what 50, 70 people to be in the panels. Ours was full. I mean, I think ours was completely full. You know, I'm sure your guys was. Most of them seem to have good attendance, so they worked well. It'll be interesting to see the YouTube feedback. I really want to see some. I second you guys. It does feel like a work week to me, and that's the first time GDQ's ever felt like that, just in terms of like I have to schedule when to meet with people, and I have to schedule when to get projects done and to do stuff. And you know, so I didn't get to see a lot of them, but I think they're a really great touch. The thing I don't want to see GDQ evolve to is like there's vendors throughout the whole thing selling stuff.
That's the one thing.
That's the con that I'm not looking forward to.
I want every other convention part except for like the vendors part. I would even be okay with like having like an indie demo showcase, like things like that, which I know is kind of like vendor adjacent, but at
you don't
least
want
that's
like
like
streamers
applicable. Like if we had Celeste there from last, you know what I mean? So last year, if Celeste would have came there, people would have been like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a hot new speed game, obviously. Like, but like you even give people like a way to show like, oh, look at how cool this is going to be as a speed.
That would be sick. I'd be fine with that, but you don't want like streamers being able to rent out tables just to give out their cards. Although maybe that could be a more efficient way of taking pictures and stuff. But I don't want like, oh, here's the Funko Pop station. Here's the
I totally
like I don't want it to become
I don't want
like, oh, I'm at MagFest and I can't find my friends and I'm waiting in line for things. And
I
stuff.
totally agree. It is, and it is hard because of that, because the more as we keep adding more and more people, and one thing I will say, I think the added people really helped the stream room crowd. Like there were very few times where the stream room was just plain empty, but B, I felt like all times during the day till about the 3-4 o'clock, there was rows and rows of people in the crowd, and I thought that was really awesome.
Really fixed the problem that's been there for years, which is like the crowd looks dead.
I mean, how many times have you seen those SGDQ? Yeah, SGDQ 2016 pictures of like an entirely empty crowd. They finally figured out ways to stop shooting footage of an empty crowd, and then at the same time they figured out how to finally, you know, fill the crowd. So I think
I thought that part was really great. I am glad they are embracing how big they actually are, because I think that helps the community grow in general. And I'm very always adamant. I want more full-time speedrunners out there. You know what I mean? I want more guys being able to make money off their craft. And I think this is sadly, or not for some people, it's going to be sadly, but it's one of the kind of necessary evils that we have to have our biggest events be big events, you know what I mean? And I personally, I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad they're embracing it. And I think there's tons of other small events that are cropping up all over the country, all over the world.
That's what I was going to say. If you want the small event, the small event still exists. GDQ is growing, and there's no way for GDQ to fight it aside from just instituting an artificial cap on attendance. And then it's just a crapshoot whether or not you get to go. You, the person who feels like you deserve to attend GDQ, you're not going to be able to go, and then you lose for it. So GDQ should grow, and the small events still exist.
Yeah. Wait to see how the rando tournament shows up. That could be the big thing for that community. You've got Calathon. You've got, you know, now this GDQ Express, GDQ Plus. There's a lot of
small regional events
too. Chaos, MMC,
And
there's tons of
Speedruns
things.
Rochester, there's, Buckeye Speedrun.
Southern
There's been a lot more
Speedrun.
Southern Speedrun Summit. There's a lot more localized stuff that's going on. That's really cool.
These are all great. So last question, let's round it out. So this is from 40 Watt Range on Discord, and also John the Great in chat asked pretty much the same question. Said, what was your favorite non-stream thing that happened? Just one thing.
Chinese food.
That Chinese restaurant was good. I only got to play one game of Secret Hitler all week, so that was my favorite.
Secret Hitler's my choice. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, Mall of America is a really awesome place. Like, I was pleasantly surprised at how much fun I had just at Mall of America. Dude, the roller coasters are actually pretty cool. They had the SpongeBob roller coaster that was it had a legit drop on it.
I've been fighting going to the Mall of America for what? This is now my third GDQ running. People have been like, let's go, and I say no. So maybe next time I'm gonna have to. Who said go? So
we were so close. Wildly surprised at how I went twice, and the first time was actually because I wanted to get a pair of Jordans, which I found. I've been looking all over the country, everywhere I go, and I finally found the pair of Jordans I wanted. So that was awesome. But B, like the actual like amusement park area, we went and hung out there before an escape room for 2 hours, and I had an absolute blast. So
Pooh is so much cooler than us. He's traveling around the world trying to find cool Jordans. What are we doing? We're like, my protractor could be upgraded.
I just bought a long HDMI cable, so.
Wow, you did get.
They had a kiosk in the mall that had like 14-foot iPhone charging cables, and it was like that's all they sold at this kiosk, and I was like, wow.
Oh, I just bought a massive power strip that has like 40 outlets on it, so I'm upgrading my life right now. As you can see, I'm really moving up in the world, so.
You're leaving us all behind. So thank you all so much for the questions. Those were awesome. We appreciate all of your support watching the stream. Thank you to all of you who came up and said hi to us at GDQ. For real, like, all of you are really respectful, very sweet.
Please never stop. Please don't take our comments as anything.
Yeah. None of my comments had anything to do with anybody that commented from the podcast specifically, and that was great. Like, everybody was so nice, and like, just supportive, just said a lot of great things. A lot of you clearly have been listening for a long time, which is like the most flattering thing we can know, like just that you've been listening for years. That's just crazy. So thank you all so much. Grand Pooh Bear, I think they all know who you are, but where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can't actually. I'm not on the interwebs
now.
So
you're only live streamer now. Like,
he's gone dark.
No,
he's gone dark.
Actually, I'm gonna promote my sister podcast here.
We always do that anyways.
Yeah, I know. Our cousins podcast. I don't know how we're related, but we're all friends. So check out the Warp World podcast.
We're kissing cousins.
If you want to hear more kind of like Twitch gaming news, not necessarily just the speed runs.
Yeah, podcast.warp.world. They've become my video game news podcast, replacing some previous ones.
I've been really enjoying Warp World Historians too. Now on the same
y'all
feed.
have replaced CU podcast for me and some other ones. So you're my like, here's what's going on. What happened in E3? I'm not gonna listen to 4 podcasts about it. I get one. So it's gonna be you guys. So go check them out. They're awesome. They're also doing Warp World Historians, which is doing history stuff that you probably like from this podcast on a bunch of different games. And their tasting games is way different than ours. So you're gonna see a bunch of games that are they already have like Braid. Like
Pokemon.
I don't know what number
Maker.
Braid would be in the list of episodes for TFS, but it's got to be in the thousands. So
that was one of their first
Braid
4. Is such a good game.
Oh no, it's good, but like the speedrun scene is kind of sparse.
Yeah, so anyways, go check them out. Also, big shout out if you want to support us, patreon.com/theframesavers. You can help us pay our producer, help us pay for our hosting fees. Your money goes to a lot of things, new projects, including some stuff we did at GDQ that costs money. Thank you so much. We have 4 $25 a month patrons we want to shout out. We've got twitch.tv/TinaHacks. It's definitely worth your follow, along with Mr. Pizak, Kip with 2 P's, and Drex, DDRREEXX. Go follow them. They all do a great variety of content. Also, just follow us anywhere on theframesavers.com. It has links to our Discord. You can talk to us, Twitter, all those different things. So check
Twitch,
us out there.
YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes.
Yeah,
everywhere.
all the things.
If you want to send us something, you can probably find it there.
You can follow me at John Carls on Twitter and Twitch, and John Carls1 at YouTube. You can follow Auth at Author Blues on Twitter and Twitch and YouTube. And a big shout out as well to Brian Morgenthau for producing this podcast. So as always, go follow him at BMorgsTV on Twitter and Twitch. Any last words from the wordcast?
I really would have gone with if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, not the bird thing. It's still weighing heavily on me.
Yep. Well, that's a good way to go out. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Later.